Welcome back, everybody, to the College Football Show with WillND, and here also Jeffrey from Only Talk Sports. We got a lot to get into tonight with the recapping Week 1 of college football and the craziness that was, and we also are going to be previewing Week 2 of college football as well. I can't wait to get into it. So much to talk about, and none other than to do it with WillND. I know he's excited about Notre Dame football, but we're going to get into all that, but can't wait. What's your first thoughts, Will, on before we get into the show?
The football itself, there were some good games, but not that many, but there were just so many crazy storylines. I feel like this was an eventful Week 1.
For sure. I mean, I agree that at moments, some of the games, they weren't great, but there were a few good games, and definitely the storylines won the day during Week 1. There were so many interesting storylines with the games. I mean, obviously the Notre Dame A&M game and with Florida State and tons of other situations as well. So, I mean, that's always hilarious to see. But, I mean, at least there were a few good games. I mean, there weren't many, but there were enough that made the week good overall. I agree.
Taking a look. As Deion in Colorado, it wasn't pretty, but they did get past North Dakota State.
Yeah, I picked North Dakota State to win and an upset, and I was close. I was almost correct.
You were close.
And I will say that in that game, I'm not saying Colorado shouldn't have won, but I don't know if you saw that targeting. That should have been targeting. And on that drive, North Dakota State's going down the field. The Colorado player leveled that North Dakota State wide receiver. Absolutely. And, I mean, crown to the helmet. I mean, that guy could have been, out for multiple games. He got up. I don't know how he did. But, I mean, of all the calls that we've seen with targeting this year that have not been called, there's been a few where I'm like, that should have been targeting. That was the worst one. That was clearly targeting. So obvious. They didn't call it, though. So then it helped Colorado win. Probably at the end of the day, Colorado would have won anyway. So it's fine. I mean, it is what it is. That should have been called. Would have made it a bit more interesting. But Colorado, their defense is still bad. That's the problem. Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter, Shiloh Sanders. I mean, that's all good.
Shiloh looks bad, in my opinion.
But he's the third best player on the team. But I get your point.
I would say Jimmy Horn's ahead of him.
That's fair. But Jimmy Horn and Shiloh, but after that, it's bad. The rest of the team is terrible. But I mean, you can't have a good football team with 3 or 4 good players. That's just not feasible. But Shedeur and Travis were definitely fantastic, but they're not going to have a good season unless more of their team becomes good because they've survived this one.
It's crazy that, to me, just from watching the games, I'm not a pro scout, but to me, Shedeur looks like the best quarterback in college football, which is crazy that, like, the team around him is not great, but I think he looks like the most pro-ready quarterback. And I don't know. I mean, his character issues with Deion being his dad and his main influence may hurt him a bit, but I don't know. It's just crazy that him and Travis Hunter, who's probably going to be number 1, they're great, but they don't have that much help around them, man. It's crazy.
I said it earlier this week that if it was just based off the 2 best players on a football team, Colorado would have a case for being one of the best teams out there when it comes to their top 2 players. They're that good. I mean, they're comparable with almost every team in college football's best 2 players. But after Hunter and Shedeur Sanders, it's a major drop-off. Absolutely a major drop-off. And yeah, it just isn't a good sign for their season. I mean, I agree with you. I think Shedeur is great. I mean, I'm like when Deion Sanders was getting in a tiff with someone on Twitter about how my son's talented and where's your son and all that. Shouldn't have said that. But I'm not going to deny that Deion's son is good. His son is a good player. He's really, really good. And I do hate that his offensive line kind of sucks, especially last year. It was really bad last year. It's kind of, we'll see this year. Still doesn't look fantastic, but it could be better. But he's good. Absolutely. And he might be the best quarterback in college football. But, I mean, obviously, it's just going to be hard for him to, have a case to win like the Heisman if he puts up crazy stats, or in people's minds be like that's one of the second best quarterback in college football if his team ends up going 5-7. It's just going to be difficult.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, Colorado got away with one there. Not a great performance, but they did beat North Dakota State. And Carolina.
Did you see Coastal Carolina too? Just real quick, Coastal destroyed Jacksonville State. I was surprised that they did. I thought it'd be a very close game. Jacksonville State was even favored, so maybe Coastal Carolina is still good. You know, no Jamie Chow, no Grayson McCall, but that's a good performance on the road too. But I don't know, just shocking to see Jacksonville State after the season they had to have a bad performance like that.
Maybe Coastal to the playoff.
Maybe.
Carolina and Minnesota, man, this one was a defensive battle, and at the end, just like in the '98 NFC Championship game, a missed field goal cost a Minnesota sports team.
Yeah, that was tough to watch if you're a Minnesota fan. I mean, I as a North Carolina fan have admitted tons of times over the weekend that North Carolina should not have won this game. They should not have won. And I know PJ Fleck. I know that he has a tough job up there in Minneapolis. I know it's not easy, and he's done really well there considering what they've been for a long time. You know, the last 20, 30 years, they haven't had the best times or anything. So it's impressive. But the issue is that Minnesota, they have a good enough team, and they have the coach that's supposedly as good as he is and what he's done in the past at Western Michigan and earlier on in his Minnesota tenure, that they shouldn't have lost this game. North Carolina played horrible, absolutely horrible. 2 missed field goals. And the fact that the second one, you're going to down the ball on the right hash when you could have done it on the left hash, that would have made it where he probably would hit the field goal because the kicker was hooking him right. Didn't even learn from that mistake, so he misses the game-winning one. And the fact that their offense is horrible. Maybe Max Brosmer's not good, but he's supposed to be, you know, a very capable quarterback, put up a lot of yards and stats in New Hampshire. I know it's FCS, but their offense just isn't it. And even Rutgers fans are saying Athan Kallick-Manis is better than Gavin Wimsatt, and yet he was horrible at Minnesota. So something's wrong with the offense, and I know that, you know, they don't have the receivers they used to have, but they do have Daniel Jackson. He's good, but their offense just sucks. So I don't know if it's a scheme issue or what, but there's problems up in Minnesota. It could be a long year for them because they should have won this game. I'm happy Carolina won, and they got problems now that Max Johnson's gone. Connor Harrell's going to have to get better. He's going to have to learn how to throw a football. If he can, maybe Carolina can win 7-8 games somehow. But it was a good win for North Carolina, but Minnesota definitely blew this game.
And it's not looking prettier for the Golden Gophers as they're not in the Big Ten West anymore, unfortunately for them. They are not in the Big Ten West.
Yeah, you can't hide behind that anymore. It's big boy football now. No more, oh, well, we grind out games in the West and we go 8-4. Yeah, that's all fine and dandy, Minnesota. It's all fine and dandy, Wisconsin and Iowa, but now you're in the big league. Except Iowa this year. They got the most favorable schedule ever. But other than Iowa, the other ones are going to have to figure it out the hard way. Easy football's over.
It is over, unfortunately, for the Golden Gophers, as they might have had to win this game to make a bowl.
I think so. I mean, North Carolina, it's going to be easier. It was going to be easier for them to make a bowl game than Minnesota, just based off schedules alone. But yeah, I think Minnesota had to have this one. So it's going to be a long year up there.
So Carolina, it could still be a long season for Carolina, but the ACC looked bad. So I think Carolina will probably be all right.
Yeah, I mean, with Connor Harrell's inability to throw a football, I mean, it could be a long year, but the ACC's looking terrible, so it would not shock me if Carolina still goes 6-6, 7-5. I mean, they could be horrible and still go 6-6.
We learned that last year. Yeah.
Yes, Boston College, but we'll get to them. Not going to be slandering them as hard this year. Not going to be doing it. I'm not doing it this year. We'll get to them.
Michigan State, not pretty. Not pretty.
Ugly game. And Another game that probably they should, like Michigan State should have lost, just like Colorado. There was a couple bad calls in this one because I got invested in this game. Everybody kept watching Western Michigan, Wisconsin, and I know it was close, but that game, the Michigan State Florida Atlantic, was the one I was watching. And there was a couple of missed calls on that game. If they had gone Florida Atlantic's way, I think they could have won. I do not think that Michigan State is all that good. Yes, it's first game of the Jonathan Smith era. They're going to get better, but Aiden Childs is not great. I know he's young. He's probably going to get better, just like maybe Connor Harrell can get better, but his passing sucks. There were so many missed throws in that game. It was unbelievable. If he had thrown better, just hit the open man more often, Michigan State probably wins this game pretty easily. More easily than they did, but he's not a good passer right now.
Yeah, in both of these games with the Big Ten teams, Cam Fancher, 2 interceptions, that can't happen. I mean, that really hurt FAU's chances to win. And Hayden Wolf with a pick in the end zone as Western Michigan was driving. Both
that you just can't have that. You can't have those mistakes if you're going to get a big upset. And honestly, for Buckeye Mike's favorite quarterback, Cam Fancher, if he didn't have nerves of steel, I don't know. He should not have survived that game because there was one hit. He got smacked in the head hard on one play in that game. I don't know how he got up. He had there should have been 2 targetings against Michigan State on him. But somehow he got up on both. But one of them was just insane. It was egregiously bad. But he somehow got up. So Cam Fancher's a strong dude. That's all I can say. But can't have the 2 picks regardless.
TCU and Stanford. Stanford only has one FBS win since 2021.
Yeah, so. And the fact that
one FBS home win.
Their second to last big win. Their second to last FBS win was the big win against Oregon.
The other one was at Notre Dame.
So like they beat Notre Dame, but they were bad that year. They beat Notre Dame. But the other one was the Oregon win where Chris blew it. So yeah, Stanford. It's been a rough road since that win against Oregon, outside of the win against Notre Dame, but that was more Notre Dame just playing horrible. But they got better at the end of that season. But Stanford tried. They tried in this game, and they looked okay. But at the end of the day, Josh Hoover, the quarterback for TCU, just played too well. TCU could consistently move the ball down the field more than Stanford could. I mean, Stanford wasn't bad, but we don't know how bad TCU is either. Like, if TCU ends up being like a 500 team, then this isn't going to look as good for Stanford. But like, if TCU ends up maybe going 7-5, 8-4, this was not a bad performance for Stanford. But it just hurts for them. They couldn't pull out the win. They had a shot, they had a couple chances, but it just shows how far behind they are of solid teams in college football. They got a lot of work to do to turn that program around.
They also have they don't have a favorable schedule in the ACC.
Yeah, it's like the ACC is not that good, but their schedule's brutal for the ACC anyway. And when you're not that good, you need an easy schedule, right? I mean,
the one team they avoided that we were looking at, they avoided Florida State, but they playing everyone else, and Florida State's not good, so.
Yeah, it's kind of like Florida. Like at the beginning of the year, everybody was talking about Florida's final 5-game stretch and how brutal it was. Well, maybe Florida State won't be too bad, but the other 4, LSU should still be really good, even though considering. But still, like Florida, that maybe they get a bit of a reprieve with Florida State, but maybe Florida State could turn it around. We'll have to see how really bad they are.
Well. Not a great start for Dabo in a season where I felt like Clemson need to go do better. I
think the thing that's so sad about this game is the fact this was expected.
Yeah.
I mean, like Clemson used to be able to compete with Georgia. They used to be able to compete with Bama. They won those 2 titles. And now we're at the point where this result is expected. Like the days are over where Clemson loses to Georgia by 7 in week 1. Even though they were complete trash, they lost 10-3. You know what I'm saying? Now Clemson's getting bludgeoned 34-3. This game wasn't close at all. I mean, obviously they hung in there as long as they could, but their offense was terrible, and Cade Klubnik could do nothing in the game. That's the sad thing. Clemson's just no longer anywhere close to elite. They're not. It's over.
Mm-hmm. Like Cade Klubnik looks not better at all. I mean, maybe even worse this year than he did last year. So it's just going to be not a great season for Clemson. I mean, they could still make the ACC championship game,
but that kind of just speaks to how bad the ACC would be if they did. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Georgia's probably the best team in college football right now, anyway, for what they've shown. But still, I mean, it just isn't a good look for Clemson. We got a few comments. Appreciate you for being here, Jackson. We also got Hummus Hero. Hi, Hummus Hero. He says, so when are we going to talk about Boston College? We'll get to that, Hummus. Jackson says Colorado's defense is terrible. I agree. Shadur might be the best QB in the draft, but it's a weak class. I agree. Austin's here. Appreciate you, Austin. He's mad that I'm slandering primetime. That's not a shock at all. Jack says PJ screwed unless Minnesota somehow gets a 9-win season. Absolutely. Hummus says the Minnesota job is difficult, not very attractive. Absolutely. And then Austin, talking about this game, says it was good at least for the first half. I mean, yeah, it was, but it's kind of like other people have said, the dam was about to break. Clemson kept it close as long as they could. And then once the dam broke, it was gone. You know, like they tried, but there was never a point in the game where you're like, Clemson's going to win this game. Or have to win. I mean, Georgia just kept grinding, and then they wore Clemson out, and then the game was over. And Clemson couldn't even compete on offense. That if you can't score on a good team, you can't win. Doesn't even matter how good your defense is. But now Clemson's defense isn't even as good as it used to be, so that they just aren't elite anymore.
I was watching a Clemson talk show. Yeah, Clemson Football Live. And he's just like fed up with everything. He's like, he lost it, man. He's like, I just want Clemson to do as bad as they can, so that Dabo will use the transfer portal and fire his wide receivers coach.
Well, the thing is, I mean, Dabo is so stubborn that will it even matter? I mean, if they have so bad of a year, maybe like if they go 6-6 or something, maybe that can make him do it. But will it? Because some people are just so stubborn that it don't matter. Look at Iowa. Iowa's offense has been trash for 20 years, and it didn't change Kirk Ferentz's mind. I mean, obviously they were still winning, but still, like, it was horrible. I mean, they've been the laughing stock of college football. I mean, the last few years for how bad their defense is, but it didn't make him change his mind. I mean, I get here, like you're saying, that if Clemson's so bad that I get. I mean, maybe. But some people are just so stubborn it don't matter.
Yeah, and he was like mad at how bad the ACC was. He was like, "Oh man, we're gonna win all these games, and Dabo won't change anything." So we'll see.
Well, I mean, I think it would still be better for Clemson to at least win all those games because I mean, you don't want to go 6-6. That would be really embarrassing. I mean, at least Clemson's been keeping themselves at a point where it's like, yeah, they're still good. They're still beginning the season ranked. But, I mean, if you start going 6-6, then there's real problems.
Well, Ohio State, there wasn't real problems for Ohio State, but Akron went 2-10 in the MAC last year, and they were only up 17-3 at halftime. Ohio State was against them. So, I mean, Ohio State, they got it together. They still won 52-6, but not a great performance from the Buckeyes.
Yeah. I mean, this game wasn't going to be close. I mean, Akron is not good, right? Like, Akron, Indiana barely beating Akron last year was an embarrassment. And that game, to be honest, is the game that I knew that Tom Allen was done. Like, I knew he was done when you can barely beat Akron, right? The game went to overtime. It was bad. And like Ohio State was supposed to blow them out. And like I've seen some Ohio State fans online say that like we're the best team in college football based on what we did against Akron. And I'm like, okay, for one thing, Alabama was more impressive against Western Kentucky than you were against Akron. And number two, Georgia technically has the most impressive looking win right now. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, Jackson's right. 4 overtimes. I mean, yeah, it was that bad. I mean, it was such a garbage game. But yeah, I mean, Georgia right now has the claim that you can say they're the best team. I mean, obviously it's too early to say, but they have the best looking win. Obviously, we don't know how Clemson's going to be, but Ohio State can't tout a 52-6 win over Akron as they're the best team. And I also agree with Hummus Hero's statement. You know you were good when people say you had a bad performance and you won 52-6. So that is also true.
Mm-hmm. Oregon also not looking pretty in week 1 as they won 24-14 against Idaho and couldn't run the ball. They couldn't run the ball against the Vandals.
They couldn't run the ball, and literally the entire offense was Dylan Gabriel just dinking and dunking it down the field. And what was making me laugh was so many people were saying that, oh, Dylan Gabriel can't throw a deep ball. I'm like, have you seen Dylan Gabriel at UCF? Did you see Dylan Gabriel at Oklahoma? He can throw a deep ball. Okay, maybe his arm isn't the most impressive arm in college football, but he can throw the ball downfield. I don't know why Oregon wasn't throwing the ball downfield. I didn't see a minute of this game. I have no idea. Maybe their O-line was so bad that Dan Lanning just wanted him to get the ball out quick. I don't know. But for people to go out there and say that Dylan Gabriel can't throw the ball downfield is just asinine. He can't. That's dumb. So the fact that, like you said, they couldn't run the ball, that to me screams that their O-line's trash. And that's why they were dinking and dunking it down the field. I don't think it's a Gabriel problem. I think it probably is an O-line issue. Other than that, I don't know what's going on.
So not a good start for the Ducks, but a good start for Texas and Alabama as they both vanquish their Group of 5 opponents.
Alabama won like Yeah, I think I cut out there. I was surprised that Alabama won the way that they did. I thought that it would be a like 45-10, 45-14 type of game. Western Kentucky has been solid the past few years. I know they don't have Zappy. I know they don't have Austin Reed. They got TJ Finley. He's worse, but still, I thought Western Kentucky would be able to score. And I didn't know that Alabama was going to put up 63. This was a very impressive performance for Alabama in Kalen DeBoer's debut. I don't really think anybody was going to say that Alabama was going to win by this much. I will agree with Hummus Hero, though. He says you can't really evaluate teams on who beat up a Cupcake Warriors. So obviously beat them 63-10 last year. I agree. I mean, that's true. But just Alabama looked dominant, though. Like even Jackson saying Bama gave up, didn't allow any points on like a 9-minute, 21-play drive in the second quarter. I don't know. It was just very, very impressive from Alabama because I think people thought that they would struggle a bit. It's kind of like that South Florida game last year. Mm-hmm. Everyone keeps bringing up that game. And I've had people, basically finally listen to me a little bit and be like, yeah, Jeffrey, you're right on this. Because when they barely beat South Florida, Milroe did not play in the game. I've said this like 8 billion times. People are like, oh, it was a close game. Bama sucks. No. Milroe did not play in that game. If Milroe played in that game, they'd have won by 50. He didn't play because Saban was testing the quarterbacks. That's all he was doing. It was his last chance to do so. And then he realized Ty Simpson and your boy Tyler Buckner, was not good. So that's why he was like, it's Milroe. He's the guy. Maybe he can't throw that well, but it's not the other two guys. But Milroe got better, and he's playing good so far. Yes, Western Kentucky's not a great measuring stick, but it was easily one of the most impressive performances, kind of like we talked about the other night on After Dark. One of the most impressive performances we've seen by a team in week 1 from Alabama.
So, yeah, good job to Alabama and Texas as we get to the games here. And my Fighting Irish went into College Station and silenced those Aggies Texas A&M really couldn't do anything on offense, although they had one drive where they scored a touchdown, but that was because the Irish had too many penalties. But Riley Leonard in the clutch delivered. Great pass to Bo Collins, even though he almost had a dumb penalty. But the Irish defense was fantastic. The offense came up when they needed to. The running backs look fantastic. Hopefully the passing game can be a bit better, but Riley was hurt during spring, so they're still getting used to it. But yeah, the defense was fantastic. The offensive line came through when they needed to at the end. They wore down Texas A&M defensive line. So just a great start for the season for the Irish. They will have to play better on offense if they want to compete with the Alabamas, the Georgias, the Ohio States. But overall, it's a great start and a great statement win. On the road, where almost no one predicted them to win. Joel Klatt and Lee Corso were the only ones I saw picking the Irish. Jeffrey, what do you think of the game, buddy?
Yeah, I will say if you're going to talk about most, like dominant win, Alabama over Western Kentucky because of just how, impressive it was, how dominant. Georgia over Clemson was dominant, but you want to talk about just a impressive, good, solid, legit road win. It's Notre Dame. This was massive for Notre Dame. Obviously, we don't know how good Texas A&M is at the end of the season. Maybe they're only 6-6, 7-5. But even still, it's not easy to go on the road and win at an SEC stadium with 100,000 plus screaming fans. It is hard. It really, really is. And Notre Dame did it. It wasn't the prettiest game, but the drive that sealed it for me, I was impressed with Notre Dame. Was just that drive when they were tied 13-all and Notre Dame went and scored a touchdown. Notre Dame ran the football down their throat. The O-line was great, just absolutely great. Manhandled Texas A&M's defensive line. That was impressive. And I was like, yeah, Notre Dame's good. Like, is Notre Dame one of the 5 best teams in college football this year? I don't know. Maybe they are. Maybe they're not. Well, time will tell. But they're right there. They're really good. Because that was not an easy place to play. I thought the crowd noise would get to them. I mean, I overestimated the SEC in week 1 in these big games. Obviously, the SEC impressed in other games, but they were very underwhelming in these big, these massive matchups. The big matchups is where the SEC was terrible. I thought that A&M with Elko, knowing Leonard would be enough. And I mean, it's not like Riley Leonard was fantastic or anything, but he made the plays when they needed to be made. I mean, he only threw for 158. It's not like he was incredible, but he didn't make mistakes. There's no interceptions there. Notre Dame took what they could get when they got it, and that drive when they scored to go up 20-13 was very impressive. And I don't think Texas A&M's bad. I don't think they're horrible, but Connor Wegman's got to get better.
Well, Connor was going against
A&M. Connor Wegman was not good.
Well, the secondary was good. I mean, there were they just couldn't get open on Notre Dame's defensive back. So we'll see how he plays against Florida in a few weeks. He should play well against Florida. If not, then maybe A&M's not good.
I will agree. Your team's defense definitely contributed to Wegman's struggles. So if he does do a lot better against Florida, then he's not awful. It definitely was probably just because Notre Dame's defense was that good. Because they were. I mean, they were shutting everything down. That was very impressive. But, I mean, Wegman's not Heisman material.
No, he's not.
Like, if he was, then he'd still been able to get some things done against Notre Dame. But he didn't. So.
Drew Aller looks better for Penn State. I still have to see it against the elite teams, but I felt like he did make some better passes than he did last year. I still have to see it against the better teams. I think they go up against USC soon, but it was a better performance offensively by Penn State.
Absolutely. And I mean, this game was not as impressive of a win as Notre Dame's over Texas A&M, but it was still an impressive win for Penn State nonetheless, because they were only favored by 8. and they won by 22. So, I mean, they definitely overperformed. And I agree 100,000% that finally Penn State could do what they have not been able to do in years. Throw the ball down the field. I mean, literally, they haven't done it in like 3 years, like at all. Like last year was pathetic. In that Ohio State game, I know Ohio State's defense. I'm not saying the defense isn't good. Ohio State's defense was just fine. It was really solid. But the problem is Penn State didn't put any pressure on the Buckeyes ever. It was just dinking and dunking it down the field. You're not going to win that way. And Penn State has enough talent that I think they would have a shot to beat Ohio State or Michigan, teams like that, if they could stretch the field. And they haven't been doing that. Like the last time Penn State beat Ohio State a long time ago, they stretched the field. They have not been able to do that. And in this game, I don't know how good West Virginia is. It's 1 week. We just don't know. Maybe West Virginia is awful this year, and it was not as impressive a win as we think. But still, I think West Virginia, based off what we think, they should be a bowl team. It should be solid. Penn State was able to throw the ball downfield in this game, and that's impressive. There was a couple throws Aller made that I'm like, that would not have happened last year. So great for Penn State's offense and their defense. Defense was good too. Tom Allen did a pretty good job mixing up coverages, liking that as well for Penn State. And we got Scotty B here. He says, Penn State's OC is the real deal. You have to have a good OC because no matter how good your players are, if your offensive coordinator is bad, look at USC. We're going to get to USC. The scheme was better. Defense was better. Wow. Alex Grinch did suck. He sucked. So kind of obvious there. I mean, you have to have good coordinators. They got to call the right plays. And Penn State's offensive coordinator last year was boring, bland, awful. This year, it's better. And look at Penn State. Looking pretty good so far. I'm a hero saying I can hear the mountain folk to the south.
I'm saying that they're not Ohio State. They aren't Michigan. They aren't Georgia or Alabama. West Virginia can still have a good year. I agree. Garrett Green needed to play better, and he didn't. Like, he needed to put up to at least match Drew Aller, and he had a tough game, unfortunately, for the Mountaineers.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I mean, West Virginia isn't bad. They're just not on – they're nowhere near the elite. They're not – I mean, they're just like a top 30 to 35-ish program. It's not bad. That's fine. But when you beat a team like that, it's not going to be as impressive if Penn State beats Ohio State later in the year. That's going to be like, okay, this Penn State, they're legit now, right? But beating West Virginia, that's a good start. Very impressive how they did it, but that's not going to really move the needle too much in the national media's eyes. And then you got Jim here as well. Appreciate you for stopping by. Says Penn State's D looked better than I expected this year. Aller needs to keep improving, in my opinion. Absolutely. You got to keep getting better. I mean, he wasn't perfect, but he was better. And in the defense, I mean, Tom Allen's a good defensive coordinator. I don't think Tom Allen is bad at calling plays on defense. It's just that he didn't know how to have a good offense at Indiana, especially once Kalen DeBoer was gone. But I mean, I think Penn State's in pretty good shape if they keep it up, keep getting better.
Michigan's offense a little underwhelming against Fresno State. Like, I know Fresno State's the West Coast Appalachian State. They've been known to give teams problems. But
that's a good comparison.
Mm-hmm. But I'm a little underwhelmed in the quarterback play for the Wolverines.
Oh yeah, it was not that great. I mean, basically, it took a pick six, for Michigan to really be like, okay, we won this game, and it doesn't look too bad. I mean, winning 30-10, that you had to have seen the score and watched the game to be like, this was not good, right? I mean, Michigan did not comfortably win this game as much as the score would indicate. And their offense is going to have to get a whole lot better for next week if they want to win. We'll get to that. They're going to have to be a whole lot better because that was not great. Alex Orji, I know he didn't start, but he's not ready for primetime at all. And he's probably their best chance to be good if he can get there. But I don't know. They got a lot of things to iron out. And Donovan Edwards is such a downgrade from Blake Corum. It's unbelievable. I've never seen a running back so incapable of running through a hole. He can't run through a hole. It needs to be like literally a freeway lane hole to get through. I mean, he just, I don't know. He just doesn't know how to run through the hole. He's not capable enough, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying he isn't talented, but he just isn't a great running back overall.
We'll see how much the Wolverines can improve this week. But right now, it's looking like they're going to be a heavy underdog.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I mean, they definitely are. They're going to be an underdog, and most people probably aren't going to pick them either. I'd be shocked if anybody does, really. I'm not giving away my pick. I could pick him. We'll see. You'll have to find out later in the show. But I'm just saying, I don't think a lot of people are picking Michigan. But we'll see.
Disappointed in the Jackrabbits. They did not come through. They could not stop Alan Bowman and Ollie Gordon. So good start for the Pokes. Not a good pick by me.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I picked the upsetting it with North Dakota State over Colorado, and that almost happened. I don't think that was a terrible pick. I'm still happy with that pick. Obviously, it hurt my record, but, I mean, I was close. I don't blame you for picking South Dakota State, especially after what Oklahoma State did last year. I don't blame you. It just unfortunately didn't end up getting close to turning out, but it wasn't a bad pick. I mean, you even had me thinking on it. But I was like, I don't know. I think Oklahoma State will get it done. But, yeah, I thought this one would be closer. I mean, Ollie Gordon's good. And even their quarterback, Bowman's, he's fine. I mean, he gets the job done. But Oklahoma State is a weird team. I mean, they like to show up in bigger games and then choke sometimes. They do this a lot. But, I mean, South Dakota State put up 20, but 44 is way more than 20. So they cruised to victory here.
Mm-hmm. Another team that cruised the victory was Miami over Florida. Pathetic from Florida. Absolutely pathetic.
Oh, yeah. I felt so dumb picking Florida after this result. So dumb. And I don't know if Austin's still here, but I don't think 8-4 is happening, man. I just don't think 8-4 is happening for Florida. I would be shocked if they turn it around and go 8-4. I think your dream is dead.
They have a better chance at going 1-11
than 8-4. I agree with you, Will. I mean, I still think they'll win a couple games, but I don't know, man. Florida, they suck. Like they're horrible. I mean, Miami fans now think that their team's legit, and I'm not saying that they're not. Maybe this is their year that Miami's back and they go like 11-1. And their schedule, they should do pretty well because their schedule's bad. But Miami usually chokes. I'm not gonna go out there and say Miami's legit or anything, but all I know is I think this speaks more volumes to how bad Florida is, more so than how good Miami is. And I know that a lot of Miami fans, if we got any in chat, they're not gonna agree with that. Again, they're gonna think their team's legit. But I think this is more so Florida just being really bad. That was a sick performance on their own field in week 1. And I'm not even blaming Billy Napier. Overall, I mean, obviously, I didn't really watch much of this game because it was so bad. But, I mean, I just think there's more issues at Florida than he can fix at this point. I mean, that is just a messed up program. And yes, Hummus Hero, I agree. I wanted Billy to succeed. I did. I mean, I hope still somehow he can maybe go 5-7 and they'll give him another year. But I will be shocked if he's not fired halfway through the season. Just like a Scotty B saying, I think he's done by midway of the season. It's sad, but to me, if I'm any coach right now, I'm avoiding that job. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to Florida. I'm staying as far away from Florida as you can possibly stay. Lane Kiffin, stay away. Chris Kleiman, stay away. Jed Fish, if you want to do it, that's up to you, but I'd stay away. I'd stay away from Florida. I would not take that job right now. It's a horrible job.
Florida, it looked like their offensive linemen were like giving up. Like, it looked like players on Florida were just giving up. They already quit on Billy Napier. They already quit on their school. Billy Napier, in his press conference, threw the fans under the bus, saying it was the fans were part of the problem. And did you hear that, Jeffrey?
I cut out for a sec, but I heard a little bit of it. Yeah.
Yeah, Billy Napier throwing the fans under the bus in his latest press conference. When you throw the fans under the bus, you're done.
Yeah, I mean, you can't do that. I mean, no matter how – the problem is that I understand as a coach that you can get mad at fans for turning against you or being mad, but you can't do that because the fans are your last chance. I mean, it's like even like with Indiana, and obviously Indiana's not that good. We know that. But Tom Allen had still a portion of the fan base even when he got fired. I still knew some Indiana fans that did not want him to get fired. Okay, I know it's two different things, but he was just such a likable dude, right? Like people liked Tom Allen, even though he wasn't getting it done. People are like, I like the guy. I want him to do well. Problem with Billy Napier, Florida's not Indiana. They're just not. They want to win. The issue is that, and a lot of people have said this, outside of Spurrier, outside of Urban Meyer, they've sucked for the vast majority of their history. They're a good program, but they're not Notre Dame. They're not Alabama. And the fans want that. And with how competitive the SEC, and now you just add Oklahoma, Texas, the SEC is loaded. Like even Vanderbilt's looking okay. Week 1, we'll get to them. But I'm just saying, like Florida is just a bad situation right now. They're a good program. They're not a great program. But they got fans that want a great program. And that's not achievable right now at this point. Unless they want to invest. They got to invest. We got Chris here saying agree. More a knock on Florida. They will be lucky to go 4-8. Coming from a Florida fan who wanted Napier to succeed as well. And I hate it for you, Chris. I hate it for Florida fans. I do. But, I mean, like Scotty B said, who should Florida hire? I mean, I would not take the job, especially if you're already at a job where you're making millions. Like, if Lane Kiffin legitimately went from Ole Miss to Florida, that would be one of the dumbest moves in history. I would not do that. And Scotty B saying maybe Florida shouldn't have fired Dan Mullen. I mean, they were doing better under him, but what were you saying, Will?
The only reason I would be even consider it if I was Lane Kiffin would be if he could bring pretty much his whole team over.
That's true, but I mean, it's just hard to argue with the fact that you're already at a program where you're in the top 15. You're winning. You're successful. The fans love you to death. Even if some people don't like Lane Kiffin, I mean, the Ole Miss fans don't have any problems with him. And the thing is that how much better of a program is Florida than Ole Miss? Legitimately. I mean, historically, they are, but right now they're not. And he's making a lot of money at Ole Miss. A lot of money. And he turned down the Auburn job, which I said he should have turned down the Auburn job. He did the right thing by turning down the Auburn job. But I think if he took the Auburn job, that would have been less crazy than taking the Florida job at this point. I mean, it would make more sense for someone like Jed Fish. It would make more sense even for someone like Chris Kleiman. I wouldn't do it if I was Chris Kleiman, but just not Lane Kiffin. It would not make sense for Lane Kiffin to do it. I mean, I agree that if he did bring his whole team over from Ole Miss, he could probably do better than they would be better than they are right now with Billy Napier. But would it be worth it, though? Because the expectations are higher at Florida.
I mean, it's with more NIL money, but
it's not doing anything, though. I mean, Ole Miss has NIL. They've bumped the NIL up. I mean, it's not top 5 in the country, but it's good. If it's not working in Florida, they couldn't. Remember, they tried to buy that QB or whatever for like $10 million, and that was just ugly. That whole thing. I mean, that makes NIL look really good. When you got situations like that, you got a player. It's like he wants out, and like I don't know. That was a messed up situation. I don't even know. It
might be a little easier to recruit to Florida, like to get to the 5-star guys, but.
It is easier, but the thing is that the problem that the teams in Florida had, because they have all the talent in the world, Miami, Florida, Florida State, they got all the players. Florida is a hotbed for talent. The issue is that all those players are not going to those teams, though. A lot of those players are going to Bama, they're going to Georgia, they're going to teams like that instead. Miami, Florida, and Florida State need to keep those players in the state. Because there's enough of them for all 3 programs. There's even enough left over for UCF if they want.
Mm-hmm.
But those guys are not going to those teams. A few of them are, but most of them are going to Georgia and Alabama. They're taking their players. Because trust me, if Alabama was just relying on Alabama recruits, they would not be as good as they are right now. They wouldn't. They're getting guys from Cali. They're getting guys from Florida. They're getting guys from Texas. Alabama recruits all over the country. That's why they win. Ohio State is the same thing. They can't just rely on Ohio. That's why I think it's stupid when people are like, oh, well, it's your hotbed for recruiting talent. If Minnesota had the money and the NIL, because people are like, well, they can't recruit because they don't have the player. Dude, guys from Texas would go up to Minnesota if they were giving them $10 million. Okay, a lot of it's money. It has nothing to do with location. Kentucky, how many good players does Kentucky basketball get from the state of Kentucky? They get them from California. They get them from everywhere. They get them from Indiana. Indiana's got more players from the state of Indiana have gone to Kentucky in the last 10 years than Indiana. It tells you everything you need to know. It has nothing to do with location. It's money. Florida, the schools cannot keep their own players. And that's why Florida ain't winning nothing. It's just the way that it goes. Florida has the location, but they don't have the resources right now because they're not obviously investing in it. Because their team's decent. I mean, me and Mark and others have talked about if Florida was in the ACC, they'd probably go 8-4-9-3. But the problem is that they're in the SEC. And the SEC just has better teams than them right now. They're behind.
To give some credit to Miami, Cam Ward does look like he's the quarterback that Miami has wanted pretty much since Ja'Cory Harris. Or I guess Brad Kaya was good too.
I mean, he's better than Tyler Van Dimes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's better than Tyler Van Dimes. But the thing for Cam Ward is if he had a pick in the game, but if he can keep his turnovers down throughout the season, especially with Miami's schedule not being hard, then they could be good. And absolutely. Jackson hitting the nail on the head. All Miami has to do is not lose games they shouldn't.
Well, that's basically every game now.
That's it. If they don't do that, then they're sitting pretty. They're gonna be really good. And Scotty says DJU is washed up. And we're gonna get to DJU.
Mm-hmm.
We also have Jason O as well. He says Florida is decent. Lord have mercy. Appreciate you stopping by, Jason O. But yeah, I don't know, man. Scotty B says FSU wishes they had Cam Ward. I mean, I don't know. I mean, they didn't get him. Every program got who they got. I don't know if some of the situations because they couldn't get the other guy. Maybe they didn't have the money. I don't know. But Miami got Cam Ward, and he's looking good so far.
Arizona, a little concerning to give up that many points to New Mexico.
Yeah, their defense is going to be a problem. Fafita's great. I mean, the guy is talented, and his one interception, by the way, was not his fault. Ball went through the hands of the receiver that he passed it to, and it got picked. So that's not even his fault. I know that for a fact because I was watching the game. So he's good. He played a great game, but Arizona's defense is bad. And if they can't get better, then they're going to drop some games in the Big 12.
Iowa scored 40 points. Yeah, Iowa. Yeah.
It's a celebration, man. It's a celebration. Like, literally, I didn't know Iowa was capable of it, man. Like, good job. I mean, Illinois State. It's Illinois State. Not a good team. But hey, that's good for Iowa. I'm happy for Erica. Don't know if she's here, but happy for Iowa fans in general that, you know, they finally were able to put up a respectable score line. I mean, for them, it's been a struggle to score 20 the last few years, but 40 is good. We'll see if it carries over to some of their other games against tougher teams. I mean, like I said, their schedule's pretty favorable. I mean, Iowa, I'm like, now that they're no longer the Big Ten West, it's going to be harder for them. Well, they got a pretty good situation this season anyway with their schedule. We'll see if it should be harder next year because I think that's kind of how they're doing it. If one year you have a decent schedule, the next one it's going to be harder. It's kind of seem how they're going to be doing it because like Indiana's is easier this year, but next year it's harder. So I think that's kind of how they're doing it.
all optimism gone from Blacksburg. They lose at Vanderbilt, but shout out Diego Pavia and the Commodores. Great win for them.
Yeah, and the fact that all those Virginia Tech fans traveled to Vanderbilt. I mean, they were there. You said they were going to be there, and they were there. Loud, and when they took the lead in the game, they were going crazy, and then fell apart. Absolutely fell apart. I don't know, man. I mean, I thought Vanderbilt was going to blow it. I'm happy for Vanderbilt. I hate it for your sister, and I hate it because I picked Virginia Tech. Really hurt my picks this week. But Vanderbilt, maybe they're okay. Maybe they're decent. I don't know. I think, like you said, Diego Pavia is good. I mean, if he can lead Vandy to a bowl game with the schedule they have, that dude should win something. He should win some award. I don't know what, but he did good at New Mexico State. He's an underrated quarterback, very underrated. And Moose says, I don't know, man. That's my phrase. Thanks for being here, Moose. Yeah, I do say that a lot. But I appreciate you being here. But yeah, Virginia Tech, they were supposed to be good. They were supposed to be solid this year, and it's not looking like they're going to have a great year. Because, I mean, it depends. I don't know their schedule, though. Maybe it's not that bad. I don't think it's awful or anything. But, I mean, still, that's not a good way to lose to a team that was supposed to be the worst team in the SEC.
Not a horrible schedule, but...
Yeah, I see Stanford and Georgia Tech now. Syracuse. I don't know. I mean, it's interesting. I really don't know with Virginia Tech. That's not the easiest. Duke, Clemson. It could be interesting. They could make a bowl still, but they might not. We got Moose saying we love you, Jeffrey. Appreciate it, Moose. Glad you're here. We got Dave Valensky in the chat with a super chat. Appreciate you, Dave Valensky. He says Florida State is the biggest disappointment of the year, and it's not even week 2. I agree. 110%. And we haven't even got to the end. It's funny how much we talked about Florida State, you know, and we haven't even talked about it, you know. So, like, man, this is how fun college football is. We're all over the place, but that's what makes it so fun. I'm glad college football is back. But I agree with you, Dave. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Florida State, I mean, Mike Norvell, all the goodwill that he had built up, it's in the toilet. But definitely we're going to be talking more about the Seminoles. But definitely appreciate your super chat, Dave. Definitely appreciate it a lot. Thanks for being here.
Maryland looks good. I mean, they beat up on UConn. Louisville beat up on Austin Peay. So good for them. Purdue beat up on Indiana State. Pitt
not much noteworthy.
Gave up some points, but they beat Kent State. Navy beat Bucknell. Cincinnati beat Towson. Washington State put up 70, but they gave up 30. Indiana.
Indiana, okay.
I'm going to have to go to the bathroom and talk about Indiana.
All right. While Will is taking a little bit of a break, he'll be back in a minute. Indiana was impressive. I know the scoreboard does not really reflect that. Like, oh, they could have won by more. Indiana looked good in this game because, for one thing, it was the first time that they ran for over 225 yards in like 3 years. They had like 234 rushing yards. That's insane. Indiana's O-line is better. Oh, man, Jason says, oh, geez, I'm going for a jog while Jeffrey talks about Indiana. I can't help it, Jason. I'm sorry. I got to give Indiana a little bit of coverage. Hey, good exercise. But definitely Indiana looks like for the first time in a while that they have a decent O-line. It sucks that one of their O-linemen tore his ACL before the season, but overall it looks pretty good. Because Carter Smith, who Indiana kept from transferring to a better program, and another guy, I think Mike Kadick. Both those guys ranked in the top 20 of all offensive linemen in college football for week 1. So that's crazy. Absolutely crazy that Indiana has competent O-linemen. And the weakest part of the despite all the opportunities that they could have. I think Indiana could have passed more in the game, but they were, I wouldn't say being conservative, but they just cruised to victory. It was an easy win for Indiana, and that's not something you could say for the most part the last few years. Just a good, solid win against an inferior opponent for IU. And we got Jim saying, haha, representing the Hoosiers. Get him, Jeffrey. Hey, I'm one of the only ones that will do it, so got to give Indiana some love. They look good, and hopefully it continues for the Hoosiers throughout the season. And they're even showing up in bowl projections. That's an improvement. Indiana could make the guaranteed rate bowl or the quick lane bowl or whatever, which I think is called the Detroit Bowl now or something. I think it might be called that. So whatever it's called, but Indiana might make a bowl. And we got Jackson. Appreciate the super chat, Jackson. He says, bad beats, Rutgers Howard over under 51.5 points. Point total 51. That hurts.
That
hurts.
Oh, man. But yeah, shout out to the Hoosiers. Hopefully they can keep it up.
Absolutely. Nebraska, I think they can. I really do. I think that Indiana is a significantly better team this year. And I would be shocked if they don't make a bowl game. I know it's after 1 week, but that game against UCLA, if they beat them, then I'll be like, I think this is a bowl team. I really do.
We'll be happy for the Hoosiers and maybe even a bowl game win. We'll see.
They need one. Their last 4 bowl games, they've lost by 1 score. And they haven't won a bowl game since 1991, the Copper Bowl against Baylor. Okay, doesn't exist anymore.
Is that the Alamo Bowl?
Yeah, I think it's the Alamo Bowl, I think, right?
I think so.
Yeah, the good old Copper Bowl. It's gone, and Indiana, I think they're like the longest team in the Power 4 Power 5, Power 4 that doesn't have a bowl win. The longest stretch. It's terrible.
Oh, it's the Guaranteed Rate Bowl.
Okay. All right. I couldn't remember. But yeah, the Guaranteed Rate Bowl. That makes sense. I mean, it's not like the Copper Bowl is all that good or anything, but still, I mean, Indiana hasn't won a bowl game that long.
1991 was my parents' senior year of college.
Yeah, that's a long time ago.
They graduated in 92, but yeah, the season was in 91 still.
That's amazing. I think that's like the year Nirvana had Smells Like Teen Spirit or something. Like that's how long ago that was, man. Like 1991. Indiana's got to win a bowl. I think Signetti's going to get it done. But appreciate you, Jackson and Dave, for the super chats a lot. Scotty B says, man, Jeffrey, you look young. I mean, no facial hair. Thanks, Scotty B. A lot of people say that. I actually do have some facial hair sometimes. I usually get rid of it, though, sometimes.
Nebraska, another team that's trying to get back into the bowls. They looked good, so good start for the Huskers. They have it'll be a lot of people will watch their next game. I don't know if it's a big game, but
it's not a big game in the general sense, but it's already getting hyped up, man. At the bottom of the screen on ESPN, they're like, Colorado and Nebraska up next week. It's like, okay, if it wasn't Deion, no one would really care. But I do think because Dylan Raiola, 5-star QB, I mean, that kind of helps too. But, I mean, they look good. They did what they were supposed to do.
Kyle McCord looked good in his first game.
Ohio is worse this year because they don't have Curtis Rourke because he went to Indiana, and they don't have Miles Cross, a receiver, but they still put up 22. So maybe Syracuse still isn't that great. But yes, McCord did put up a lot of yards in that game, so that's good.
Unfortunately, our beloved Merrimack, it was all right. They looked all right against Air Force, but
yeah, Jackson's saying Merrimack. Unfortunately, Merrimack. I mean, you don't want to go against the armed forces, man. But I was pulling for Merrimack. I really was. I was hoping they get it done, but Merrimack fell short. It's all right. Maybe they can get them next week.
74 yards for the quarterback. Oof.
Yeah, and obviously that's the leading passer because
Air Force always runs it.
Yeah, they run because they're all those teams do. Army, Navy, Air Force. They never throw. Like, I feel like if they could sprinkle in some passing in there, they'd be better. I know that that's just their style of the option and everything, but still, sometimes it just becomes too predictable. I know you can do 3 different ways, run up the middle, all that kind of stuff, but I don't know.
Northwestern, Not pretty, but they do beat Miami of Ohio, who's favored to win the MAC this year. So
Yeah, I guess it's a good win.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like you said, because Miami, Ohio is favored to win the MAC. I mean, they're a better team than like Indiana beating FIU or Nebraska beating UTEP. But at the same time, they barely won. Northwestern, I mean, it sucks for them that like they get a coach, that actually leads them to success in his first year in the West, and now they're no longer in the West. And it's going to be very hard for Northwestern to succeed in the new Big Ten. But I hope they have some success. It's not going to be easy at all, though.
Northern Illinois, who my Irish are playing this week, beat Western Illinois, who IU is playing this week. Pretty good. So that's the bar that IU need. They need to win by that much, or they.
Yeah, I know. A lot of people are saying like if Indiana doesn't beat Western Illinois by more than Northern Illinois, then it's like, okay, Indiana's not good. Plus, Western Illinois has not won a game in 25 tries. They've lost their last 25 games. I read that. They have not won a game in 25
Brutal
tries.
For the Leathernecks.
They're bad. They're horrible. So Indiana beat them by 50 plus. Just do it. Be the most dominant win Indiana's had in years.
What a fun game this Boise State Georgia Southern was.
Man, Boise State's defense sucks. I will say that. But their offense, though. I know Georgia Southern is not a great team. They got Clay Helton, and everything, and they're not horrible. Remember, they beat Nebraska with Scott Frost. So, I mean, they're okay. But, I mean, it just shows Boise State is a far cry from what they once were back in the late 2000s, early 2010s. But Boise State's offense, man, Genty, I love watching that guy. He is good. He is legitimately a great running back. And I know Boise State's had a plethora of great running backs, but just add Genty to the list. And actually, he broke the record for the most. It was either rushing yards or touchdowns for Boise State in a game. I don't know if it was both. There was one, but he had 267 rushing yards and 6 rushing touchdowns in the game, which is insane. Absolutely crazy. I don't know if he broke both stats or one of those, but I know he broke a record. But that's insane. All the great running backs they've had, and he's just dangerous. He's electric. Sucks he's not on a better team, but he's good.
Old Dominion and South Carolina. South Carolina might be the one team that could be worse than Florida in the SEC this season. Against ODU.
South Carolina, Shane Beamer's on his last legs. And it stinks because, unfortunately, that year that they almost beat Notre Dame in that bowl game. That was a good year for South Carolina. But they lost a lot of their good players. And Spencer Rattler was on his own this past season. He didn't have any help. And now they don't really have any good players. And South Carolina is just one of those programs where you're in a conference where every team has a compassionate fan base. They have a lot of money. And South Carolina just has less of it. And the only coach that could make them win was Spurrier, just like with Florida. And now they can't win. And Beamer had it the 1 year. They had the 1 year, but then they lost everybody. You can't have a good season and then all your players get poached. Because when that happens, you're not going to win. It just doesn't work that way. You can't sustain that. So, because they had that one, then they had that tight end, Jaheim Bell or whatever. He went to
Florida State. And they had Marshawn Lloyd who went to USC.
That's the thing. If they kept those guys, they'd have been good still. But they lost them. And that's when I knew South Carolina, this is sustainable. Those two guys, I mean, it's just horrible. Horrible for South Carolina. They just obviously don't have the NIL to keep their good players. And if that continues, they're just not going to be good. And unfortunately, Beamer's going to get fired. But who can help them win? I don't know.
Cal, not pretty, but they won.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think anybody's expecting him to be great, but I mean, Will Cox needs wins. He just needs wins.
Richmond beat Virginia, beat Richmond.
ECU won. Houston's bad. Houston's bad. They're horrible, man. Like, I know UNLV. Had a good year last year, and I know Barry Odom's got them rolling and all, but man, Houston's not good. They're horrible. And the thing is, like, Donovan Smith had a bad game, 2 picks, but, like, he had his moments last year. If anybody remembers that West Virginia game, my goodness, Donovan Smith was on fire. But I just don't think they got a good team. I don't know. Overall, they're not a good team. they're horrible. It's no more Clayton Tune and Tank Dell. It's gone.
Who's their coach from Tulane again?
Willie Fritz.
Yeah, Willie Fritz. Maybe they'll take time.
It's gonna take time. Like I'm not gonna. It's one game. I mean, he's got a mess on his hands. I'm not gonna go out there and be like, oh, he's on the hot seat. But yeah, he's obviously taken over a tougher job than expected because they're not good right now. Scotty B says the NIL for South Carolina is better in women's basketball than their football team. It probably is. It probably is. It wouldn't surprise me. Don Staley, I mean, they get players. They're great in women's basketball. But
Nevada beating Troy is a little surprising.
Yeah, it was. I did not even see that score. I did not see that score. Troy, if I recall, though, didn't the coach leave, though? John Summerall went to Tulane, right?
Yeah.
Did he? Yeah, he did. So, because Fritz left. Yeah, probably that. They're probably not going to be as good. But, yeah, Nevada, no one's thinking they're going to be great, but that's a good win, especially if Troy ends up being decent. So, yeah, it sucks when you're a program like Troy and you lose your coach, and you're like Tulane and you lose your coach. That's the thing. You can't keep your coach. So you can't remain good. Like App State's figured it out. Like for some reason, like they continue to be good despite all these coaching changes. They've had so many. Memphis as well. But like some programs can't do that. They just can't. You lose your coach and your team just falls apart.
Utah squeaking. I mean, Hawaii almost beat UCLA.
I think UCLA is bad. Hawaii should have won. I mean, congrats to UCLA for winning, but I mean, it tells you everything you need to know about UCLA in the fact that Garbers was the leading rusher in the game for UCLA. That's a problem. 47 yards rushing. So obviously they can't run. And that's been one of the biggest problems for Indiana the last few years is they haven't been able to run the football. That's why I'm like, Indiana is going to be better because they can run the football. UCLA can't, and I agree. It's like Scotty B saying they might go 3-9 or 2-10. I don't know, maybe not. But now that I think about it, I actually believe that I did predict UCLA to go 3-9. So I'm with you, Scotty B. If I recall my Big Ten predictions video, I think I had UCLA going 3-9. So yeah, they're not good at all. And I'm telling you, if Indiana loses to UCLA, I'll be massively disappointed because they're not good. They're not a good team. Deshaun Foster's got major work to do, and I don't know if he can do it.
Another team that looks rough, Texas Tech. They might be down there with Houston and Cincinnati this year.
Yeah, I think so. And it's crazy, too, because like Texas Tech's had moments where they've been decent, but they just can't sustain. I mean, I didn't think Matt Wells was like horrible or anything, but they got rid of him, and I get why they got rid of him. But the thing, I mean, like Joey McGuire, he's trying, I guess, but I mean, it's an interesting program. Like they're not Texas, they're not Texas A&M. They're not bad. They're not a bad program. They just can't be good for a long period of time. They're up and down. But this game, though, it was a good game. I'm not going to knock the game. I enjoyed it because I actually flipped this one on. I was actually flipping between like UCLA, Hawaii, and like Abilene and Texas Tech for a while. But Texas Tech should not have won this game. Abilene Christian went for 2 and didn't get it. I mean, literally, Abilene Christian was tit for tat with Texas Tech. I mean, look at the quarterback. Look at the yards he put up. So, I mean, Abilene Christian should have won. I mean, they statistically outgained Texas Tech. So, that's insane. That's absolutely wild. I did enjoy the game, but I don't think Texas Tech's going to be good at all. And we got Dave Valensky with another super chat. Appreciate you, Dave. He says, which coach has way too big of an ego, PJ Fleck or Prime? Remember, I'm a Gopher fan. I will judge you, laughing out loud. It's a great question, Dave. The thing is that remember when we've talked about the used car salesman thing? That's PJ Fleck. But who has a bigger ego,
So Fleck is the. Oh, wait till Jeffrey comes back. Fleck is the used car salesman. Coach Prime is the politician.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That's fair. That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
That's fair. The ego, though, I mean, Prime's got a massive one. I mean, but I understand it. He was a great player, and he's a celebrity, basically. So I would say ego's Prime, but used car salesman's Fleck. I can't take that one back. Absolutely, he's a used car salesman. But I think the ego is going to Prime, and it's I understand why he's like that. It's just, will it help his team in the long run? I have no idea. But definitely, I love how people compare PJ Fleck and Deion Sanders. Like two completely different people, but they're kind of similar at the same time, which is hilarious to me. You wouldn't think that, but they are actually similar people, even though they're two totally different people. That's hilarious. But thank you for the super chat, Dave. And I'm going to have to go with Prom on your question here. So I'm not going Fleck, but I got to go with Fleck for used car salesman.
Not pretty for the Yellow Jackets, but they're 2-0.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia State's decent. They've had some success in the Sun Belt. But, yeah, Texas Tech, or not Texas Tech, but Georgia Tech, I mean, it was coming off their big win, even though maybe it's not that big of a win. We don't know, but still, they won comfortably enough.
Arizona State took care of business.
Either Wyoming really just is better at home, or I actually think Wyoming's bad this year. Because they don't have the coach anymore, Craig Bowl. They don't have him anymore. So that could be why they got blown out in this game. Plus, Arizona State legitimately looked better. I actually watched about 10 minutes of this game, and it's tough to gauge when a team like Wyoming plays so bad. But Arizona State looks better. I don't know how much better they're going to be, but maybe there's going to be some strides in year two.
All right.
Kenny Dillingham might have him going a bit. Oh man, you got Brian Kelly. You love trolling Brian Kelly. I mean, LSU. I picked LSU. It hurts, man. USC. Congrats to Tim and all the Trojans fans out there. Tony, Rick, congratulations. USC's got a defense. They have a defense because Alex Grinch is out the door, and they actually have a coordinator that can call defense. So USC is better. They are better. LSU, I didn't think they played bad. I really didn't. I thought they played pretty good. This was the one game, to be honest, where I feel like both teams played good. A&M played good against Notre Dame, but Wegman was not great. This game, I felt like Miller Moss, Garrett Nussmeier, both the running backs for USC and LSU, I think that both teams played good. I just think USC did a little better. Both teams played fine. I don't think LSU should be knocked that much for this. Obviously, people are going to, trash Kelly, and yeah, he's trashing his player. Like, that's dumb on Kelly's part, but I think that both teams played solid.
It was just funny because, I was on After Dark, but a lot of Notre Dame fans were there trolling LSU post-game shows. So, they organized it, and then they got blocked, and then they went to the next LSU post-game show, and it was pretty funny, all trolling they did on Kelly. But Miller Moss, man, he was very impressive. This is an NFL quarterback that another one that Lincoln Riley's developed. So gotta give credit to LR for that, man. He made all the throws down the stretch, and their defense got stops, and they won. So great, just a great start for the Trojans. LSU, not horrible. I mean, Garrett Nussmeier was Garrett Nussmeier. I don't think he's improved that much.
Yeah, Miller Moss was better than Garrett Nussmeier. Absolutely, he was. I just think Nussmeier was fine. LSU did good, but USC was better. Everything LSU did, USC was just slightly better. And like I said, I can't say enough about the defense. The improvement is off the charts. Because if this was USC from last year, this game would have been in the 50s, probably. Or at least LSU would have scored that much. But that you have to have a good defense to win. And they did good on offense. Miller Moss put up 378 passing yards, but then the defense got stops when they needed to. Several times I thought LSU was going to take control of the game, and USC got another stop. They got another stop. It was impressive. It was very impressive. And it just goes to show USC had good players on defense. Just the coaching was awful. Absolutely terrible from Grinch. It is horrible. So, I mean, I agree with you. I think Miller Moss is going to be an NFL quarterback if he keeps this up anyway. I mean, he did good against Louisville, and now he did good in this game. So we have 2 games of proof. You keep stacking those games, Miller Moss, you're going to be an NFL quarterback. I agree. He's looking good.
Mm-hmm. I think LSU's clock management could have been better, and I think they were missing Mike Denbrock for that. I mean, Joe Sloan, it was his first time. I'm pretty sure it was his first time coordinating a Power 5 offense. And I think that maybe they could have won this game with Denbrock. I'm not even trolling, just looking at the game down the stretch. They could have used more of the clock.
That's true. And I will say clock management is massive because that's one thing that I always complained about during the Tom Allen era at Indiana. I felt his clock management was horrible. I felt like he would call timeouts at the worst times. Like, that helps you win. I mean, stuff, just small things like that. Football's like chess. It really is. I mean, you have to have the pieces on the field at the right spots and have the right scheme, but it's also about managing the clock. All that kind of stuff. It's very important. You have to be top-notch in every area to be an elite team. Like, you could have a great team, but if your coaches are horrible, you're not going to be that good. Or you can have great coaches, but if your players suck, you're not going to be that good. You need both to be good. And the truly elite teams have both. It's just the way that it is. So that's a fair point.
Boston College, the Eagles have returned. They're going back to the Tom O'Brien era. They're going back to being a consistent 8 or 9 win team at the worst. Bill O'Brien, man, he's turned it around already in Chestnut Hill. What a performance by the Eagles. They could not stop Tommy Castellano. They couldn't stop him. He did anything he wanted in Boston College with a huge win over Florida State. Jeffrey, the floor is yours.
What is wrong with FSU? What is wrong with the Seminoles? And to me, I mean, there's a lot of problems. DJU is worse than Jordan Travis. Absolutely worse.
We knew that.
But is he the main reason they're losing? I mean, you look at his stats, 272, touchdown and a pick. There were some drop balls in that game. That tight end had a couple plays where he just dropped DJU's perfect passes. So I don't think it's all on DJ, but the main massive problem for Florida State is their defense is horrible. They cannot stop the run. Boston College ran all over Florida State, down their throat, up the gut, around them, all over the place. And Castellanos, I will give Castellanos credit where credit is due. He's actually solid. Is he the greatest passer in the world? No. But he can run, and he can make the passes when needed. So that's where he's ahead of a guy like Orgy or Connor Harrell, because he can run, but he can also throw the ball at times. He's not a bad passer. He had a couple really solid throws in the game. But it wasn't just Castellanos. Boston College's running backs ran all over Florida State. They had like almost 400 rushing yards in the game. They might have hit 400 rushing yards in the game. I don't know. But it was a lot of rushing yards. They just ran down Florida State's throat. And Florida State never could gain momentum in the game. They fell behind 21-6, and it just seemed like for the rest of the game, they were playing for behind, playing catch-up, trying to come back. And I agree right here with Jason. Florida State has zero toughness. The defensive players are more concerned with their Instagram than making plays on the field. I don't know about their Instagrams because I haven't looked at them, but I will say that they don't have toughness because they didn't even try to fight back. When they got down by the score they did 28-13 in the fourth quarter, they gave up. They didn't even look like they were trying to come back. They just absolutely gave up. And see what Scotty's saying right here. FSU didn't hit on their transfers as well as anticipated. The thing is that is the risk with the portal. Some years you hit home runs with the portal. Look at Florida State bringing Keon Coleman in, bringing in Jared Verse, Tatum Bethune. So many great players. Other years, you don't hit on those guys. And when you don't, your team is going to suffer because of it. And it looks like Florida State is having the exact opposite of the last couple of years where they hit on all their transfers. This year, they hit on any of them. Dave's saying BC hasn't been good in years. Last time
They were good with Matt Ryan.
I'm now 45. I was going to say that. They might not have been as good as they were with Doug Flutie, but they were good
like
with Matt Ryan.
Two. They were ranked second at one point with Matt Ryan. Yeah.
It was brief. It was a brief stretch, but they were good with Matt Ryan. But, I mean, hey, I'm happy for Boston College. Jason O, you might still think I'm a BC hater, but I did not think they were good last year, and we'll see how good they end up being this year. But great win for BC. Very good win. And it's unfortunate that Florida State, dropped the ball as bad as they did, losing both those games, because I'd have to check it again because I did look at the AP poll earlier today, but I don't think BC's not ranked. They're not.
How much do you think Florida State rushed for?
Yeah, BC is the second team out of the top 25. That's because of Florida State losing. Let me think about that. Florida State probably rushed for 75 yards.
21.
Oh, 21? Mm-hmm. Okay. That it's not DJU. Let's not blame DJU. They can't run either. I didn't know it was that bad. Unbelievable. Well, BC's defense, congrats. But Florida State's obviously their run game sucks. Their defense is bad. Wow.
That's horrible, man.
21 yards. Florida State. That is unbelievable. Okay, I'm just saying it, Jeremy. Boston College still isn't a good team. I'm not saying they're a great team, but they're good. They're better than last year, and they're good. We'll see what they do the rest of the season, but this was an impressive win. I give credit when it's due. I'm not going to trash a team if they're all right, if they're solid, and I give BC credit. But Florida State's got some problems. A lot is wrong with their team. Jason O says FSU's top 3 running backs combined for 7 carries. They didn't even try to run. I mean, do you think Florida State can make a bowl game, Will?
50-50.
Yeah, I mean, I think they still can, but I'm not confident in it right now. I mean, they've lost a lot of great players, and they didn't bring in nowhere near as good of players as they've lost, and they just look defeated. It almost looks like, I know that a lot of the players are new, but there are returners from last year. It just looks like them missing the playoff. They're just still, it's like they're still sulking about it, right? Like, I don't know if that's a factor or what, but you got to get that behind you. You got to let that it's over with. It's kind of like with the 49ers. I just did my NFL predictions video. If you guys would like to go check that out, I just made my NFL predictions video for the week 1. And I'm literally saying with the 49ers, they just have to lose into the Chiefs behind them. Can't let that just, bleed over into this season. Like, it's behind them. They didn't win the game. Move on. Try to do it this year. And that's the way with Florida State. Like, they didn't make the playoff, but see, it's a 12-team playoff now. It'd be easy. Playing like this. So they just need to find a way to win a game at this point. Beat Memphis. So it's easier to make the playoff. But Florida State just not going to get anywhere close to that the way that they're playing, and they got a lot of problems. That's all I can say. Mm-hmm. I mean, I agree, Jason. DJ had a lot of incompletions, but some of them were drops. Like I said, I counted about 5 drops. So FSU's tight ends and receivers weren't that good either. So there's a lot of problems that Mike Norvell's got to fix at Florida State. But the biggest problem, what's wrong with them, is that defense and that run game.
Mm-hmm. All right. I
will say last thing on BC, and then because you're moving to week 2, and that's great. Last thing on BC, Hummus saying Bill O'Brien's a good coach. I like the fact that he didn't try to score at the end of the game and he just took the knees. I like that. It's like, we won. We beat you. We're not even going to try to, make the score even bigger. We already won. We got this. I mean, just absolutely just glorious how BC ended that game.
Mm-hmm. All right. Indiana, Western Illinois. Hoosiers should win big.
Yeah, first game of the week. Like, I'm already getting Indiana out of the way right off the bat. No one's going to watch this game, and I don't blame you. I mean, it's just the way that it is. There's a better game on at the same time. So I think that the best thing Indiana can possibly ask for is just to blow the doors off Western Illinois, win by 45, 50-plus points, just completely destroy them, and no one's going to talk about it. Like, they won. That's it. No one needs to say anything. Like, Indiana does not need this to be a close game, because if it is, then there's going to be like, oh, Indiana's not any better. They just need to win big. So I'm going Indiana by a lot.
I like how this gives Indiana a lot of time to prepare for UCLA.
Yeah, it's fantastic. The way the schedule starts is great. I mean, the end of the schedule is harder, but the beginning of it's fantastic. Because, I mean, think about it. Like, you got these 2 gimme games, and then you got at UCLA, kind of tough. But if you can get that done, then you got Charlotte, another easy game. Then Maryland, and then you start getting to some of the tougher games. But, like, Indiana can really build some momentum up here. If they can do that, maybe they can beat a Washington. Maybe they can beat, Nebraska. We'll see. I'm not saying that they are. I'm not even thinking that they will at this point. But the schedule just starts out great. One of the best schedules for Indiana in so long.
BYU SMU could be interesting. I don't think BYU's defense is very good, though. I think SMU should be able to move the ball at will.
They had Jaron Hall, and when they had Zach Wilson, couldn't think for a sec. Zach Wilson and Jaron Hall, they were better on offense. They're not as good on offense now, and they're in a bigger conference, so the competition's harder, and their defense is, like you said, significantly worse. SMU, they've looked okay to start the year. I mean, it's not great, but I mean, they got the job done. They beat Nevada. They're favored by 10.5.
10.5 feels like too much.
10.5 feels like too much. Yeah, I agree. Maybe they don't think BYU is bad. Maybe they think they're bad. Maybe they don't think they're that good. Scotty B says BYU only won 1 road game last year. SMU wins. Yeah, I'll probably go SMU to win 28-21.
Yeah, I'll go 31-24. SMU. So Northwestern and Duke. It seems like Duke always wins when they play.
I love this game. Just something about Duke Northwestern, the 2 academia schools. I love it, right? Just the academic guys getting together, playing a game. I love it. Northwestern favored by 2.5. It feels like Northwestern needs this game, right? Like, if they're going to make a bowl game, because, I mean, they have a hard schedule. How did you like Malik Murphy?
Week 1.
Malik Murphy, did okay for Duke. I mean, 1 pick, 260 something. I mean, over 200 yards. Like, he did fine. I mean, like you said, Duke normally wins. Scotty's saying since Northwestern is at home, he's going to go with Northwestern.
Aren't they going to be in the small stadium?
That's what I'm saying, though. Like, they don't have Ryan Field. Ryan Field's gone. They're tearing it down. Like, they got a mini little stadium. It is small. Because I think Indiana's got to play at Northwestern later in the year. Like, it's just a baby stadium. I'm going Duke 28-21.
Yeah, I'll go Duke outright as well. I'll go 31-21.
I mean, I would be okay with Northwestern winning.
Yeah.
It'd be cool. I would not have any issues with it. I've never been like an anti-Northwestern guy. I'm not naturally anti most teams, but I just think Duke's going to win. I think they'll pull it out.
Texas, Michigan, the game of the week.
I've been waiting for this game, man. I feel like because Michigan looked rough against Fresno, that it's taking just a bit of shine off this game. A lot of people aren't as crazy with this one as they were in week 1 and prior. But it's still a massive game. The way I'm looking at it, though, is that last year, Texas went on the road and knocked off Alabama when Alabama was at their most vulnerable state. Because Milroe was not a good passer yet. He threw 2 interceptions, and Texas got the win. Alabama improved as the season went along, and maybe Michigan will as well. But right now, Michigan's offense, unless they just were not showing us what they were capable of, but I don't think that's the issue. I think it was more so that they couldn't do it. That if they cannot score in this game, Michigan will not win. That's the key. It's almost like Penn State, West Virginia. West Virginia could not score, so West Virginia did not win. And it's just the same thing because Texas is way better offensively than Michigan. And we know they have a couple of injuries to the running backs. And that's the key. Like, Michigan is going to have to make Texas not be able to run at all and force Ewers into some tough throws. That's basically their only shot. And they have to score. Because if Michigan only puts up like 14, they're not winning this game. Texas will win. So I think it's all about Michigan's offense. They have to put up points. And Texas, as long as they don't make mistakes and they don't turn the ball over and Quinn Ewers plays a mistake-free game and they're able to run the football at all, even though it's on the road, the Big House is a fantastic environment. I will never knock
it. It can get quiet. It can get quiet.
But if Texas can get a lead on them, though, then Michigan's environment will get worse. The game needs to be close, and Michigan's fans need to be engaged for Michigan to have a shot. If Texas gets up by 14, 17 points, game's done. I'm going to let you pick first.
I just can't see Michigan scoring enough points. I think they're going to have to score off of turnovers. They're going to need Quinn Ewers to turn the ball over. I mean, their defense is still going to be good. But because not all the guys came back, but a lot of them came back for Michigan. I'm going to go 24-10 Texas. I think it'll be low. I would bet the under in this game. 42.5 seems like too much. I think Texas wins in a low-scoring game.
I don't think I can disagree with anything you just said. I think is a veteran quarterback. Whether you think he's an elite quarterback or not, he doesn't have to be elite in this game to win. He just has to not make mistakes. And if he plays a mistake-free game and Michigan's offense looks as bad as it did last week, Texas will win this game. I'm going 24-14. I think that it's going to be a lower-scoring game too, because I don't think at any point Texas is really going to like blow it out, but because of just how tough of an environment it is. And when you're playing that big of an opponent, you usually just don't really air it out too much or like open it up. But I do think Texas gradually pulls away and they comfortably win 24-14. I think Michigan is just too bad offensively to win.
We got Jim here saying, I don't know how Michigan can keep up with Texas scoring unless they hold them to field goals. Well, I don't think they're going to be scoring. Yeah, I don't think they're going to be scoring that much. And then Hummus said, Orgy's good at throwing at people's feet. He's way ahead of the times. In 50 years, catching with your feet will be the latest flex.
Yeah, that's hilarious. I saw that comment earlier. That was a good one by Hummus. That was a good one, man. I mean, he's not a good thrower, man. He can't pass right now, and he's going to have to develop his ability to pass the ball if he's going to have any shot of becoming like the full-time starter at Michigan and, be just able to have a shot to use his athleticism to get into the NFL. Because look at, literally, Anthony Richardson. He's a fantastic athlete, but he can't throw, but he's trying to develop that. He's trying to get better at that. That's the only way you're going to be able to have a pro career. Because Alex Orgy's talented, but he can't throw.
This guy said 27-10. Arkansas, Oklahoma.
The same ballpark.
Arkansas, Oklahoma State. The tough place to play. Boone Pickens for Arkansas. I can't see him stopping them in this game. I mean, Arkansas looked good against Arkansas Pine Bluff, but that's one of the worst FCS teams. So unfortunately for our man Sam Pittman, I hope he succeeds. Likeable guy. I can't see his defense doing enough. I think their offense will be good with the guy Taylon Green, is that his name? I think he'll have a good year for Arkansas if he can get protection. But I don't think it's going to be a pretty year for the Razorbacks. So I'm going to go Oklahoma with Alec Bowman, Ollie Gordon, those guys. I think they'll win 38-24.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, Taylon Green needs protection to be able to have success. That was the biggest issue for KJ Jefferson. When he had protection and then those good receivers, he was able to have a lot of success. When the receivers went away, the O-line got worse. He couldn't do anything. It'll be the same thing with Taylon Green. Arkansas, yeah, they were impressive. That's what I was going to say a minute ago. Like, they were impressive against Arkansas Pine Bluff, but it's Arkansas Pine Bluff. So that doesn't really speak to much. But
like, their offensive linemen look like tight ends for Arkansas Pine Bluff. They're tiny.
They were so small, man. I mean, it was ugly. It was such an overmatched game. And Bobby Petrino, a lot of people think like he can help Arkansas, become good again. Like because he was there in the past. I don't know. Oklahoma State's a weird team. Sometimes they don't show up to play, but I do think because it's an SEC opponent, they're on their own field. The crowd's gonna be in it. They're gonna be focused and ready. I feel like they're gonna win. Probably 31-20. I think Arkansas will score some, but they're not gonna win.
Kansas State, Tulane. Tulane's lost a lot. Their coach left.
Yeah, if Tulane still had Michael Pratt and still had Willie Fritz, then this would be big upset alert for Kansas State because Tulane beat Kansas State a couple years ago. They've already beaten them, but the problem is they've lost those guys. It is at Tulane. That helps.
They don't really have a home field advantage, similar to Stanford.
But it's a small crowd.
Yeah.
Kansas State, they've got the talented quarterback in Avery Johnson. A lot of people are really high on him. I think Kansas State's going to have too much talent here for what Tulane's lost. I'll go with Kansas State to win 34 to. I want to say 20, but I'm going to go Tulane 17. I don't know. I'll
go 38-14. I think
Tulane's going to be a lot worse.
Yeah, I think Kansas State will cover in this one. Georgia Tech, Syracuse, going to be a good game. I agree, Hummus.
Yeah, it's a sneaky good game. I like the underrated games. I sometimes get more hype for these. Like if Texas Michigan becomes a blowout, you can bet your bottom dollar I'm flipping this game on. Or Arkansas, Oklahoma State if it's close. I'll always do that. I don't understand why some people, you'll be at some people's houses or whatever, and they insist on watching the big game, even if it's a blowout. And it's like, I understand, like, if it's their TV, you're going to leave it on. But, like, I like to flip to the games that are close. I don't care. If it's Texas Tech, Abilene Christian, I'll flip it to that. So I will be watching this game some, especially if Texas Michigan becomes a blowout.
Kyle McCord versus Haynes King.
It's an interesting matchup. It really is.
Who will play better? That is the question for sure.
I feel like Haynes King's better, though, than Kyle McCord. Kyle McCord, I've defended Kyle McCord. When a lot of Ohio State fans have completely just butchered the guy. I think he's all right, but I think King's better. I think Haynes King's better overall. And Georgia Tech can run the football. Syracuse gave up 22 to Ohio. So Syracuse is going to have to be able to defend better against Georgia Tech than they did against Ohio. It is in the Dome, though. The Dome is interesting.
The noise, since it's indoors, it traps the noise, which helps Syracuse.
Yes, it does. It's an interesting environment. It's an underratedly, sneakily good environment. Can Georgia Tech not get the big head because they're ranked now? You know what I'm saying? You're like, they're ranked. That's the problem, man. Like, you get ranked, and sometimes it gets to your head. That's the thing. Georgia Tech cannot overlook Cuse. They just cannot overlook Syracuse. They have to play as focused and as engaged as they were against Florida State. If they do that, I think they can win. But it's going to be interesting. I'm going to let you pick first because I actually am kind of swaying on this one.
The thing that gives me hope for Syracuse is that people actually showed up to their game against Ohio because of Fran Brown and him getting people excited to go to Syracuse. I mean, they had 37,000 people for that Ohio game. And I'm assuming that number is going to get up to at least 40,000 with a ranked team coming in a conference game. So how much will that play a factor for Georgia Tech? I just think Georgia Tech's lines of scrimmage will be the difference in this one. I'm going to go – I'll go 34-28 Yellow Jackets.
I thought you were going to go with Cuse. I really thought you were going to go with Cuse. It makes my prediction even harder, man, because I will say that if you had to pick Cuse, I was going to go Georgia Tech.
Mm-hmm.
Do I do it? I don't think so. They didn't do good enough against Ohio. The hype's there. The dome is good.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think Georgia Tech's at the point where they're going to get cocky yet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like they could at a certain point if they keep it up. But I think right now they're still humble enough. They're still like, we got to continue to prove the doubters wrong. I feel like Brent Key does a good job keeping the team focused.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because of the fact Syracuse is only game 2 of the Fran Brown era, it's going to take more time for them to get better and better. I think Georgia Tech will squeak it out. If Syracuse's defense was better against Ohio, I would have gone with them probably. But I think Georgia Tech will win 24-21.
Mm-hmm. Pitt and Cincinnati.
Another little game here that is not bad. No one's going to watch this one probably, but again, if it's close, I'll flip it. Brendan Sorsby is at Cincinnati.
Eli Holstein is at Pitt, who was at Alabama.
Yes. Do you trust him or do you trust Sorsby? Sorsby was at IU, but he did good at Indiana. Despite Indiana being garbage last year, he did put up decent stats.
Mm-hmm. Well, Pitt.
I don't like saying their stadium either because it's just everybody loves laughing at that stadium name. So Cincinnati's home field is an underratedly decent environment, small, but it can be good at times.
Will Pitt overlook this game with the backyard brawl coming next week?
They did give up a lot of points to the other team in game 1 too.
Mm-hmm.
Like whoever they're playing Kent State, right?
Mm-hmm.
They gave up 24. So, I mean, it's not like they blew them out when it came to defense. Their offense put up a lot, but their defense gave up points.
Cincinnati gave up 20 to Towson, one of the better FCS teams, but they're not one of the elite FCS teams.
So both I don't know.
Yeah, this is a tough one.
Cincinnati's only favored by 2, man. I mean, they're not even favored by the full home field.
Mm-hmm.
They're not even favored by the full 3 points that you get for home field. I think I gotta back my man Brendan Sorsby, former IU guy. I'll go Cincinnati 28-27. I'll go with Pitt covering.
I'll pick Pitt. I don't know why I'm picking Pitt, but my gut tells me to pick Pitt 31-28.
I don't know. I probably would have picked Pitt, but I don't know. I'll go with Sorsby. I'll go with Brendan, even though he decided to abandon IU. I don't blame him. You know, I get it. Probably wouldn't have started with Curtis Rourke, but I'll go with Cincinnati. That's gonna be an interesting game because since we don't pick usually apart on most games, so when the games that we pick differently, that really affects the records. Especially if it's like on the ESPN Pick'em and everything. So that's gonna be a game I got more eyes on now that we didn't pick the same team.
Merrimack and UConn.
Merrimack.
I don't know any. I haven't watched these teams.
Yeah, I don't know, man. UConn, they got bludgeoned by Maryland, right?
Yeah.
And Merrimack was competitive against Air Force, kind of, but Air Force looked bad.
Mm-hmm.
Do we dare pick Merrimack, or we just play it safe?
I can't pick Merrimack. I'm going to lean UConn slightly. I don't even know what my score prediction will be, but
I hate it, man, because I really want to pick Merrimack, especially if they won with Ben. But yeah, I think I'll go UConn. I guess 21-14. I don't even know how many points are going to be scored. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Jason is burying us for going with the UConn.
Go hard, go on, go Merrimack. Man, I want to go Merrimack. I mean, they're not a good team, but
neither is UConn, but
yeah. UConn's bad too. That's the thing. I mean, at least they have a coach that people know.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll go UConn. I'm gonna be mad if Merrimack wins though, and I didn't pick.
We'll look bad. We'll look bad. Troy and Memphis. Will Memphis look past Troy? As they have Florida State the next week. I don't think they will.
I will say that there is possibility of a look ahead, but I do think Memphis is good enough because, I mean, they still have Seth Hennigan. He's been there forever, but he's good. And Memphis' home crowd is decent for a group of 5. Troy, they don't have their coach anymore. I'll go Memphis. I think they'll win 31-17.
I agree. I'll go with. Dang, Seth Hennigan, he started every year, even his true freshman year.
Yeah, I mean, he's been there a long time, but I mean, he's a solid player, and like you said, he's been playing since he was a true freshman. Not many quarterback stars a true freshman. I mean, obviously hasn't been good enough to go to the NFL, or like nobody's poached him to a bigger school, but he's a good player. He's solid. He doesn't really screw up that much, and he makes good decisions for the most part. So Memphis has been steadily a decent team.
Yeah, I'll go with Memphis. I'll go 38-10.
Army Florida Atlantic is also kind of underrated, I guess.
That's a conference game now, right?
Huh. Yeah. Wait a minute. Army isn't in the American Conference. Is Florida Atlantic in the American Conference?
Yeah.
Navy's in the American.
No, Army joined. I think this might be their first season in the American.
Wait, Army's in the American too?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even know that.
UMass and UConn are the only other independents.
Are you serious right now?
Mm-hmm.
Army joins AAC for football. Okay. Yeah. Now that I think about it, I think I remember that. But that's crazy. That's hilarious. Yeah, only for football. Yeah, I mean, I don't even know if they're good enough to be, and I mean, they're all right. I mean, I guess. I mean, it's not like the American's fantastic, but yeah, Scotty's saying FAU. Florida Atlantic should have beat Michigan State. I will stand by that. I think Florida Atlantic will win 21-17.
I'll go 2017 FAU. We have the cupcakes.
More cupcakes.
Cupcakes for group of 5 teams now.
Notre Dame blowout.
Notre Dame should win. Although I think we'll cover.
Yeah, I think it'll be easy. I mean, I see it's not as big of a spread as some because like Northern Illinois is not awful or anything, but like I think Notre Dame will win easily. I mean, a letdown game. I don't know. I think they'll be fine. I think they'll be fine.
Baylor and Utah.
If this game was at Baylor, I would be a little bit more, I guess you would say, concerned with this game for Utah. But the thing is that Utah won at Baylor last year when they didn't have Rising and their offense was horrible. And now Cam Rising is back and he's looking fine. So even though he missed a year, this is a tougher game for Utah. But Baylor's not great, and it's tough to win at Rice-Eccles to begin with because they got a very good home crowd, a great home crowd for a smaller field. I think Utah wins this game 31-17.
I'll go 34-10.
So you're going with them to cover, and I'm going for them to basically be right on the line. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Scotty B saying that Utah will win, but will they cover? That's a different story. Yeah, I mean, I hope Baylor can have a good year. I want Dave
Aranda can save it. I hope Dave Aranda can save his job this year.
I mean, Dave Aranda was like, I was hyping him up so hard a couple years ago, man. You remember that? I was like, go Dave Aranda. And then they just collapsed. I was like, I hated it because I like Dave Aranda, but hopefully it'll be a good game. I think Utah will win.
The Cyhawk game.
Yeah, on CBS at 3:30, and the spread is 2.5 for Iowa. Iowa State, I think a lot of people are higher on Matt Campbell again based on what they did last year. There was improvement, and I think some people think
Beck comes back.
Yeah, Rocco Beck's back, and I think some people think they could be solid this year. Like, I've even seen some people say they're a dark horse to win the Big 12. Will they? Probably not. But the fact they're in the conversation again shows that they're building momentum again. Matt Campbell's getting them going again instead of them being awful like they were a couple years ago. The key with Iowa, can that offensive explosion carry over to this game? Or was it just because they played Illinois State? I will say, though, Scotty B has a great point here.
Mm-hmm.
Iowa usually beats Iowa State. That's true. Because I've picked Iowa State a couple times in the past couple years.
They won in 2022, but that's the only time I can remember Iowa State winning recently.
Did I pick Iowa State 2022? Because I know I had my channel then. I can't remember if I did or not. I'd have to go back and look, but I think I might have picked Iowa State. But I know that I've picked Iowa State in other years, and I've gotten it wrong. Because it's like with Iowa. Iowa usually beats Minnesota, and they usually beat Iowa State. They don't do it every year, but they most of the time do. It's on their own field, too. But you said it was 2022, right?
Yeah, it was.
When Iowa State beat it was at Iowa.
Yeah, it was at Iowa, and Iowa State won.
So, I don't know. I mean, does that matter then? I'll let you pick first. See what you say.
Cade McNamara, can he play as well as he did with Michigan this season with a different offensive coordinator? Because he did throw for over 200. I think he threw for like 285 in his first game.
Mm-hmm.
So can he keep up that throwing? They ran the ball well as well. They had more than 10 yards to carry. So that's a good sign for the Hawkeyes. I trust Iowa's defense to do enough in this one and the offense to do okay. Not great, but I think they'll do all right to win. So I'll go 24-20 Hawkeyes.
Do I dare? Do I pick Iowa State because they did it 2 years ago? Okay, I did. I did pick Iowa State. I remembered in 2022. Thank you, Jackson.
I was right after the South Dakota State game.
And it was right after the South Dakota State game for Iowa. I did. I picked Iowa State to win, and I was right. I remember I had so many people going crazy at me for picking Iowa State, and I got that one right. I can't believe I remember that. There's so much football between now and then, but I still remember. Thank you, Jackson, for pulling that up. And he's got the proof of the pudding right here. But, yeah, I don't know. Do I do it again? I just think Iowa's better now, though. That's the thing, right? Like, they're better now. Iowa State's getting better, but Iowa State did me right back then. I mean, it's just tough, man. Like, I don't want to go against them since they helped my predictions back then. I guess. Oh yeah, Hamas Hero saying was the South Dakota State game when they scored 7 points and 2 safeties and a field goal. That's the game. That was the classic game right there. 2 safeties and a field goal. What a game. That was ugly. That's when everybody was like the MVP was the punter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Scotty B said Iowa State didn't look great against North Dakota. I'm sorry, Iowa State. I'm going Hawkeyes this time. I don't want to, man. I mean, I think Iowa State can win, but I think Iowa's better now. I do. I think Iowa's going to win 21-17.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Jackson says I picked Iowa State 17-14 and Iowa State won 10-7. It was pretty close.
That sounds right.
But, yeah, I'm going Iowa this year.
Cal and Auburn. Cal blew it last year against Auburn. That field goal kicker, I think he missed 3 field goals, and Auburn won by less than a field goal.
Cal should have won.
Yeah.
Cal, I mean, I was pulling for Cal. I was like, come on, Cal, you got the game. And the kicker, not the defense, not the offense, the kicker blew the game for Cal. I thought Wilcox was done after that, but then they made a bowl game. But Auburn, they're better now.
I just don't think Peyton Thorne's a good quarterback he won't win you games in the SEC.
No, I don't think Peyton Thorne's great. I mean, he was vastly overrated the Kenneth Walker year. I mean, I remember when Indiana played Michigan State that year, and Indiana was horrible.
They almost
Indiana almost beat them.
Yeah.
They almost beat them, and they should have if Jack Tuttle didn't throw that dumb pick at the end of the game. I mean, Indiana actually should have won. If Penix was playing, they would have. But, yeah, I mean, Michigan State was definitely overhyped that year because of Kenneth Walker. He carried that team. And I think Peyton Thorne looked a lot better because of it. I don't think he's a great QB either. But it's at home, and Auburn is recruiting better, and Hugh Freeze is bringing in more talented players into the program. The only thing I question with Auburn is their intensity level. They are a team that, just for whatever reason, against Alabama, against some of the big teams, they'll give it all that they got. And then against teams like Cal, they just suck. Because, I mean, last year, how many times did I have to hear, Will, Auburn lost to New Mexico State, and then they almost beat Alabama. That means Alabama's worse than New Mexico State. No, absolutely not. If that's the case, then Bama wouldn't have beat Georgia. Absolutely not. It's because Auburn didn't even try against New Mexico State, and against Bama, they gave it everything they had. If they had to play like they did against Bama against New Mexico State, they'd have beat them by 40. Auburn's effort problem.
You remember that bowl game against Maryland?
Dude, they didn't even try. What was that? And I picked Auburn, too. I'm like, you suck, Auburn, against nobody teams. You should have beat New Mexico State. You should have beat Maryland, and you're not even trying. That's what I can't stand about Auburn. Like, people are like, well, you don't like Auburn because they're Bama's rival. No, I'm not a massive fan of Auburn. 50, but it's not. I think I cut out there. But that has nothing to do with Auburn being Bama's rival that I don't like them. I don't like Auburn because they do not play hard every game. Their effort level is crap. They just, for whatever reason, half the time do not even try. And I don't understand that. You can almost beat Bama and should have beat Bama. I will give you the green A on that. Alabama should have lost to Auburn last year. But then they can't beat New Mexico State and Maryland. It's an effort problem for Auburn. All I'll say is I'm going to pick Auburn to win this game 28-14, but that's only if their effort's there. If their effort isn't, they'll lose. But I think if they just try it all, they're going to win.
I'm going to go 28-27 Auburn. I think they won't try until the fourth quarter, and then they'll pull it out.
You could be right. You could be right. I can see that happening. But it's sad with Auburn that they just don't try half the time. I don't understand it. You got enough talent that all you got to do is just give a C effort and you're going to win like 70% of your games. But they don't even try. That New Mexico State game was trash last year. Absolute trash. Like, I don't even understand that. And then you're going to give it all you got against Bama. Make Bama look like a fool. I mean, it's just insane. We got RC stopping by. Appreciate you for stopping by. He says FSU's crazy. I don't know. They're done. They're done. Yeah, that was a horrible performance from FSU. We've talked about them a ton tonight. Just completely horrible from the Seminoles. But definitely appreciate you for stopping by.
South Carolina and Kentucky. South Carolina looked horrible against Old Dominion. They barely won. Kentucky, I think they beat up a small school.
Yeah, when the Southern Miss.
They blanked Southern Miss 31-0.
If this was the South Carolina team from 2 years ago, this would be a good game.
Yeah.
I mean, plus Kentucky's got the guy from Georgia at quarterback, Brock Vandegrift, 5-star guy or whatever. It's on their own field, Kroger Field. I mean, South Carolina, I mean, if they play like they did last week, they're going to get blown out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't know if they'll get destroyed, but I'll go Kentucky 31-14.
What's up, Dave Brown? We have Dave.
Yeah, we got Dave Brown in the chat. Appreciate you for stopping by. He says, "What's up, gents? The old man just got up from a nap." Well, definitely glad you did, Dave. Appreciate you for being here.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to pick your rival Kentucky to win over South Carolina. Would South Carolina even make a bowl in the ACC?
Probably not. The way they played in week 1.
Yeah.
I'm
going to go 28-10 Kentucky.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think Kentucky's a leader or anything, but I mean, they're going to win. South Carolina, it's probably the end of the line for Beamer.
Mm-hmm. And we have Maryland, Michigan State with Michigan.
Yeah, we got Jackson saying Maryland will win because it's September, not October, November. They do better at the beginning of the season. I will admit to that.
They have
plus Michigan State looked really bad.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Billy Edwards had that great game against Auburn in the bowl game after Tua's brother opted out. He played really well against Auburn.
I still don't know why Tua's brother didn't come back. I think he had another year of eligibility.
No, he had no eligibility.
He didn't have any left. I thought he did.
He appealed for an extra year, and it got denied.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I didn't see that. I thought he had another year. Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, if he didn't have another year, then because he got denied, that's okay. But I was like, dude, you got to come back. Well, Billy Edwards, I mean, like you said, looked good against Auburn and threw for 300 yards in week 1.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think Maryland will win. I mean, their home crowd's mid, but Michigan State looked even worse.
Mm-hmm.
So than Maryland's crowd. So I think Maryland will get it done 31.
You really put the sword in for Maryland's crowd, man.
I'm trying to get them to show up. They never show up. They're always empty, man.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'll go 38-17 Maryland. I think Maryland will win big. Michigan State is going to be bad this year.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Jonathan Smith, I think he's a really good coach, but it's going to take time.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of time.
Mm-hmm. Let's take a look at other games.
More blowouts should be.
Marshall, Virginia Tech.
Okay. Virginia Tech is a favorite, but it's on the CW.
It's on the CW.
That makes it a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I will say, though, that Virginia Tech could have been shocked by how good Vandy played.
Mm-hmm.
And they are favored by 21 because Marshall's not as good right now. They're trending down. Marshall was better a few years ago. They're getting worse. They lost Fancher. I mean, not that Fancher's a leader or anything, but I don't know, man. I mean, if it wasn't on the CW, I don't know. I would be more confident in it, but I don't know, man. I'm going to go Virginia Tech. I think they'll win. They're not going to cover, but I think they'll win 31-17. I just don't think Marshall's that good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I think they'll cover. Marshall will cover. They're not going to win.
Yeah, freaking hiccups. I'll go 38-17 Hokies. I think they'll just cover.
Yeah.
Kyron Jones had a better second half. I think he'll do enough.
I mean, Kyron Jones is better than any player Marshall has. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, he's not a fantastic player, but he's good. So he's going to be good enough for Virginia Tech to win. They better not blow it, though. If they do, then the CW curse lives on.
Mm-hmm. East Carolina Old Dominion will be fun.
Yes, that's a good game. Well, thing is, I don't know how good ECU is because, like, Holton Ahlers, when they had him, they were good. But then he's gone, and they were horrible last year. They were awful. But they did win in week 1, but it was against like Norfolk State. So they're favored. But the problem is, look at the ECU quarterback. He threw 3 picks. 4 touchdowns and 3 picks.
No.
I don't know, man. Old Dominion, though, I mean, are they any good? I mean, that's the problem. Like, are they any good? I'll go ECU 24-20.
I don't know, man. I mean, the quarterback for Old Dominion went to my high school. I didn't really like him, though.
ECU.
ODU. Sorry, ODU. Wrong. Sorry. Yeah. I'll go for ECU to squeak it out 28. I'll go 31-28.
Maybe they're a little better this year. I think ECU's got a decent coach in Mike Houston. Hopefully they're better this year. They were not good last year. They were horrible. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Alabama, destroy South Florida. Make it known that when Milroe is in the game, South Florida can't keep it close. Bama by 45 plus. Destruction.
Kansas and Illinois.
Good game. It's at Illinois. Kansas favored by 5, which is such a weird spread. You don't see that very often. Favored by 5. The thing is that Illinois is worse than they were 2 years ago when Brett Bielema had them rolling with the good defensive players. They had like Sidney Brown. They had a good offense overall, good run game, Chase Brown. They're worse now, but they look good in week 1. Kansas, though, I mean, Jalen Daniels, when he's healthy, that's a good team. It's a very good team. I'm going to let you pick first on this one.
I think Jalen Daniels will take the game over. I'm going 41-31 Jayhawks.
I will say that if Jalen Daniels gets injured, because he's been hurt so much at Kansas, that's like the biggest worry I got with him. Is like when he gets hurt, then things fall apart sometimes for Kansas. If he stays healthy, I'll pick Kansas 31-24. I think they'll beat Illinois. But if he gets hurt, things could get dicey. But I think that as long as he stays healthy, they're going to get out of Champaign with a win because he is good.
Now, if Florida loses to Samford.
Hey, man, I'm not even confident here after the way they look.
Although Samford did lose to West Georgia.
Okay, we're going Florida.
Yeah, so Florida should win.
We're going Florida.
That was West Georgia's first game as an FCS. They moved up from Division II.
Oh, my Lord. And Samford lost.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. That's bad. That is bad. I'm going Florida.
Yeah.
I don't know about how much. Probably 17, I guess.
Yeah. We have Virginia and Wake Forest. Wake Forest favored by 2.
That's not an easy game to pick. I mean, Wake, I think Clawson's a good coach, but Wake's worse now. Virginia is not good. I mean, Calandria did have a mistake-free game in week 1 because he is very turnover-prone. He can play.
He's only a sophomore, so
he can play, but he's very turnover-prone. But like you said, he's young. But I mean, I've seen him make some bad throws, man. Very bad throws. He had a throw against Louisville last year. It was just awful. It was terrible. Virginia actually could have won. I'm gonna let you pick first. Dave Brown's going to Virginia.
Yeah. Wake has Hank Bachmeier, who was at Boise and then Louisiana Tech.
Yeah, he's at Wake now. I didn't even know that.
Yeah, he's starting at Wake.
I paid attention to the transfer portal last year, and there were still guys that I missed. their announcements. I didn't even see that because like I turned on a Louisiana Tech game last year and I was like, Hank Bachmeyer, like he was at Boise, like I didn't even know that, and now he's gone again. Like he must have just didn't catch my radar. I mean, he's not bad. He's okay. I mean, he was better at Boise, to be honest, in my opinion. But
this is a toss up.
Yeah, I don't know who to pick, dude. I'm literally like I can't. Hank Bachmeyer.
I'll go 31-30 Virginia.
I'll go 31-28 Wake.
Right.
I'll go with Bachmeyer. I don't trust either team, but I'll go Wake. I don't really have a read on that one. I usually, when I make a pick, I'm at least confident in it. I don't know on this one. I don't know. I'll go Wake.
Let's go. That'll be a fun game. Georgia Southern Nevada.
Yeah, it will.
Here he is. Tennessee, NC State.
This is probably the second biggest game of the week after Texas, Michigan.
ACC needs NC State.
Yes, but NC State struggled in week 1. They did it for, I mean, I know they pulled away, but they looked rough. Like went to Western Carolina, I think. In week 1. They did not look good in week 1. Grayson McCall is a good quarterback, but I feel like he had his best moments in the past. He hasn't been as good recently, but he did throw for 300+ yards, but it was against Western Carolina. Tennessee, Nico has to not turn the ball over and just showcase his ability in the right way. But I do agree with you. The ACC needs an NC State win. Like they need help right now. Like they're in bad shape with all of the better teams, supposedly better teams, like dropping the ball outside of Miami so far. But I mean, the problem is that the game's not at NC State. It's in Charlotte. It's Bank of America Stadium, which is the Panthers. And
Tennessee will travel.
That's the thing. They're going to travel. There's going to be more Tennessee fans probably than NC State. And that's
although NC State has a better fan base, the best fan base in the state, which isn't saying too much.
Carolina's getting better. I will say North Carolina's getting better, but I will concede NC State's is the best. NC State's is the best. Carolina just too much of a basketball school. But I used to watch Carolina when I was younger, and their fans were awful. Like they've gotten better.
Yeah, they've gotten better since Mac returned.
Yes, it's way better. Like I can't stress enough how bad UNC used to be. I mean, it was like no fans, but NC State is the best fan base in the state. You know, Carolina's catching up somewhat. Tennessee though is gonna have more fans. I just think they will. I mean, they're gonna travel like crazy. I think Tennessee will win 31-20. I don't think NC State's good enough. I mean, they look better in week 1, but I think that Tennessee's going to win.
Yeah, 38-24 balls. I think Nico will have a good big game.
I agree.
Colorado, Nebraska.
Okay. This is what everybody's going to hype up as the second biggest game. It's not. But it's still going to be interesting, though.
It'll be interesting.
Dylan Raiola and Shadur Sanders, two talented quarterbacks. Shadur has proven that he's elite, whereas Raiola is young and it's going to take time for him to possibly get there. Problem is, though, is Nebraska's got a better football team, man. I mean, Colorado's got the top players that are better, but Nebraska's got a better team. Like,
remember how bad? Who was Nebraska's quarterback last year again?
Jeff Sims. It was it was Jeff Sims, and then they benched him, and literally, like it was quarterbacks no one even knew the name of. But it was Jeff Sims playing against Colorado. He sucked in that game, man. He kept turning the ball over in the worst ways. I don't know, man.
It was Brock Purdy's brother, right?
Yeah. Like Chuba Purdy or something?
Yeah. Chuba.
Yeah. Chuba. How do you say it? I don't know. But yeah, it was Brock Purdy's brother. I would never say his first name because I didn't know how to say it. I mean, the thing is, I just think Nebraska is too good for Colorado. I mean, I know Colorado won last year. That's because Jeff Sims was that bad. Rayola is way better. He's young, but it's on their own field. I know that they have the issues of not getting over the hump of Scott Frost and continually blowing games, but I do think Nebraska will win this one 28-21.
Mm-hmm. I think it'll be a little higher scoring. I'll go 34-28.
Okay.
Nebraska.
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be pretty close. I just think at the end of the day, Colorado, I mean,
and then they're gonna say, "Oh, Nebraska, they're back because they beat."
You're not back because you beat Colorado, man. You're not back. I mean, good win, but you're already favored by 8. You're supposed to beat them. Mm-hmm. Like, no. And Colorado, if they beat Nebraska, then they're not suddenly, an elite team either. It would be more impressive if they won, though, than if Nebraska won. But yeah, if you put Shedeur Sanders on Nebraska, then it would be an even easier win. Travis Hunter, Shedeur Sanders on Nebraska, but as is, Nebraska's a better team. I think Rayola will do enough and they'll win.
Mm-hmm. App State, Clemson, sneaky.
I don't know, man. Clemson not looking good. App State gets wins. And Clemson's still ranked, holding on by the very last legs of being ranked. I agree. Jackson is absolutely right. They're going to at least beat the spread. Can they win?
They have to get the ball out fast because that Clemson D-line's good, but that secondary did not look good.
No, it didn't. I could see it, man. App State's done it before. Can they do it again? Kev, appreciate you for being here, Kev. He says App State 24, Clemson 21. He's going App State.
I'll go 31-21 Clem. I can't pull it, but I think it'll be they won't beat the spread.
Jackson saying Clemson wins 24-17. I will say I don't know how good App State is this year. I mean, they've been good consistently year in and year out, but they've gone through so many different coaches, so many different quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. They're still going to be solid. Mm-hmm. If Clemson loses, though, it's panic time. It's panic time. Absolutely panic time. I think Clemson's got enough talent.
If it was a day game, I think.
Oh, yeah, that would be more pull the trigger on App State, but it is at night, and Clemson's got a great home environment. I think the fans are going to try to help the team, get a dub. I think they'll still be there in full force. I just think Clemson's got too much talent, and I just have a hard time seeing Dabo letting them lose this game. But App State's going to cover. I'll go Clemson 28-20. Mm-hmm. I think Clemson will win. I'm not uber confident in it though. I thought about it. So come on, Dabo, you got to win. But
Clemson's never lost to a cupcake, even with so.
That's true. Usually they're disciplined. So Clemson. Oregon. I think Oregon will find a way to bounce back and get a win here. I know Boise is solid enough. They're not what they were 15 years ago, but Boise State, their defense is bad. If Oregon cannot score on Boise's defense, then Oregon's garbage. Mm-hmm. So I think Genty's going to be a problem, but I do think Oregon will win 28-17. They're not going to blow them out, but I think Oregon wins.
Mm-hmm. We'll look for Dave. Is it at Louisville?
I can't remember.
It's at Clemson. If it's a day game, I'm going to pick Louisville to win. But if it's at night, I think Clemson will somehow win.
I think I have to agree with that sentiment. I
But it will
mean,
be close.
Clemson's a whole different beast at night.
Mm-hmm. It said TBD, so I'm not sure.
Yeah. So you
Texas
going
Tech,
Oregon too? You going Oregon as well?
Oregon.
Okay.
Texas Tech, Washington State will be fun.
Man, Texas Tech was horrible though, man, against
Mhm.
Abilene. What did Washington State do again last week?
They won 70-33 against 70-30 against Portland State.
I don't know what's worse. I mean, I guess that's better, but I mean, Abilene should have beat Tech. Jackson, I don't think Louisville Clemson's going to be on the CW. I would be shocked. Clemson would have to be bad for that game to be on the CW. Clemson draws too many eyeballs.
Mm-hmm.
But I get your point, though. That's hilarious. Absolutely. I mean, if it was, I'm going Louisville. If it's on, but I don't think it's going to be on the CW. But that's funny, though. Texas Tech barely, though, man. They barely won on their own field. I'm going to go Washington State, 28-24. Nah, I'll take that back. 35-31. Texas Tech's defense is that bad. I'll go Washington State 35-31. It's in Pullman. I think they'll win.
I'll go 41-38 to Washington State because their defense isn't great, but neither is Texas Tech's.
Yeah, both teams are awful.
Yeah,
on defense it seems, but I think Washington State will get it done. I'm not confident in it, but I think they'll win.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pulling for the Cougs.
Yeah, especially the Pac-2. Pac-2 needs a good win.
2-Pac needs a big win. Arizona State and Mississippi State.
Arizona State's favored by 6.5. Oh my Lord. Ooh, SEC getting burned.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that's crazy, man. Arizona State by 6.5. I'm shocked at that. Now, these two teams played last year, right? Or was it Mississippi State, Arizona? It's Mississippi State, Arizona, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Arizona State looked good. They really did. I mean, I don't know how good Wyoming is, though.
Mm-hmm.
It's in Tempe, though. What do you got, man?
I'll go Arizona State. Why not? I mean, they looked good. So I'll go with Sparky.
Yeah, I'm pulling Sun Devils. I think they look that good. I was impressed. I think Dillingham gets them to 2-0. Mississippi State, you know, they got some problems they got to address overall. They got a lot of work to do to fix the program. I think Arizona State wins 31-23.
Yeah, I'll go with 38-27. And then Oregon State, San Diego State.
Yeah, Oregon State, San Diego State. I mean, San Diego State is not as good as they were a couple years ago.
Brady Hope left, right?
Yeah, he's gone. I think he retired.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Brady Hoke retired. I can't remember who they hired, though. I can't remember.
Mm-hmm. Who did they hire?
Yeah, I honestly can't remember. I know that
they got Sean Lewis, who was the offensive coordinator at Colorado.
Okay, yeah, I remember that. I remember seeing who they got, but I couldn't remember. So yeah, okay, Sean Lewis. Thing is, I mean, Oregon State lost everybody, right? They lost Jonathan Smith. They lost DJ. They lost. Did they lose the running back that had the?
He went to Miami.
He went to Miami. Yeah, he got arrested or whatever. Yeah. San Diego State, though, I mean, I'm shocked that they're a 6-point underdog at home. I mean, that kind of speaks that they're not
That
good.
speaks to how bad San Diego State is.
Yeah, because, I mean, if this is a couple years ago, they'd be favored in this game with where Oregon State's at. I guess Oregon State will win 28-20 I as well, just like Arizona State, Mississippi State. I want to go San Diego State, but they're obviously not good.
Yeah, I'll go 31-24. And then we have Bryson Barnes returning to face USC at Utah State. The pig
to get blown out. I think USC wins this one easily. I know USC has a propensity for letdowns, but they looked too good last week. I think they'll win.
Yeah.
Cool story.
I'll go 42-10.
It still looks weird seeing Big Ten Network, though. That just looks wrong. 11 o'clock on the Big Ten Network. It's crazy. USC will win, though. And that's it.
That's it.
We got through it. It was a long show. We had a lot of stuff to talk about with week 1. And I left up what is wrong with Florida State the whole time.
Oh, no.
I never changed the banner week 2.
I should have realized it.
All these videos are going to be, what is wrong with Florida State?
No.
That's perfect, though, because they were that bad. They deserved it. They deserved it. But, yeah, I forgot to change the banner. So the whole time, week 2 previews we did. But
no wonder everyone was commenting about Florida State the whole video.
Yeah, because I had the banner up. I was wondering why. I never changed it. That's the problem with those banners. I never remember to change them. Hummus Hero says, thanks, gentlemen. Excellent show as always. Appreciate it, Hummus. Appreciate everybody for stopping by tonight, and appreciate the super chats from Dave and the one from Jackson. Appreciate it a lot. Helps the channel out a lot. But you guys being here, definitely appreciate it. It was a blast doing it with Will again this week. I can't wait to do it again next week and beyond if we're able to. It's going to be a lot of fun. But you got any final thoughts, man?
No, just hopefully I'm more excited for the smaller matchups. That Georgia Tech Syracuse game will be fun. So
yeah, that's a sneaky little game. I love that one. There's a few good ones like that for sure. I mean, Indiana just blow out Western Illinois. Notre Dame went comfortably. Hopefully Louisville and Carolina, Bama, they should all be fine. So not a lot there, but I'll definitely be looking at those smaller matchups. I'm kind of looking forward more to Tennessee, NC State than Texas, Michigan at this point, unless Michigan can make it interesting. But it should be a lot of fun. I can't wait for the games regardless. Even if people say it's a slow week, it's football. It's always going to be fun. And, you know, you can always find some underrated games on like the CBS Sports Network and the CW. But appreciate everybody for being here. Like the stream down below. Subscribe to Only Talk Sports on YouTube or Rumble or WillND's channel as well. Give him a subscription. Definitely helps out. And give a comment down below if you guys would like to ask any more questions. But definitely appreciate you for being here, and we'll definitely see you next time. Thanks for being here.